Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Awakened His Sacred Gear in Childhood and Become the Strongest Part 2. Before we start, please go support Ryujin99 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Chapter 8 starts the chapter. Issei. Concentrate, I said seriously to the redeed. I am sorry, she says nervously. It had already been 2 weeks since I started the redeed's training. We started with his resistance and a week later I told him that I would add an hour of meditation to the exercises. He has trouble concentrating, nothing a good yell or smack won't fix. His power is almost equal to dragonic power, he is stronger with a strong emotion. She is pure power, she lacks technique, she just throws it and waits to hit. But the exercises that I told you in Belzard's knowledge, you will be able to teach her technique to use her power. She will have to have a fairly developed body and resistance to do it, says Elsha. She will be a difficult opponent if she manages to do it, even now her power is annoying. I never faced a Bale, not that she can do anything to me, but that power is a bit similar to mine. She is a weaker version, but they have a resemblance. I would like to use those flames. Then the gods wouldn't be so difficult to hurt. We already tried. The biblical god made sure to seal some of my abilities. Albion must be in the same situation. There must be some way to use it. I'll try to go to the center of the sacred gear and see what there is. I went a few times and there's just a big white space. Before the souls of the senpais did not let me pass, now I can do it. We had forgotten. Well. We had many setbacks that prevented us from remembering. It's true. I see the redeed and her eyes are half open. She close your eyes and concentrate, I said, hitting her head. Oh, it's difficult, she says, touching her head. I told you it wouldn't be easy and we're just getting started, I said calmly. I know. She says, sighing. I'll do it with you, I said as I sit in front of her. Then Issei. Start Rias. It's hard to concentrate with him around me. I open my eyes a little and see Isay, who was in front of me meditating. He looks so calm. Concentrate, says Isay without opening his eyes. How did he know? I close my eyes again and try to concentrate. But power. I open my eyes a little and see that Isay is surrounded by a red aura. Incredible, that's dragon power. It's so dense and at the same time calm. Concentrate, crimson tomato, Isay says, and I quickly close my eyes. Does he have a third eye or what? Half a month later, hello Yumi-san, greeted Isay's mother. It had already been half a month since she started training with Isay. Every time I come to Isay's house, her mother invites me to chat with her. Isay went with her father to buy some things, she says, walking towards the living room. I can come back later, I said, but she denied. It's a good time, come on, he says, pointing to the chair in front of her. How is Isay treating you? She says curiously. Well. It's very hard to teach and she only speaks when she explains to me, I said, making a face. That boy. She says, sighing. But I understand, he doesn't want to interact much with the factions and even more so with the demons. He is right to be suspicious, that shows his intelligence, I said calmly. I don't like that he is so lonely. He was very sociable and friendly, I guess that changed when he awakened his powers, she says with a melancholic tone. He will have changed for you, believe me, this world is very difficult. I have no right to say it, since I did not experience it firsthand, but I know it is difficult, I said slowly. Yes. I could see in his eyes that he knows him very well. My child, who was always smiling, changed into someone serious and who doesn't like interacting with others. But I know he is still the same, he only acts like that because he has scared, he says sadly. I always heard about how great and fearsome the celestial dragons were, I also heard about their dangers. Power attracts more power, and for dragons, especially the celestials, it is very true. Those that are related to red and white have a tragic life. I understand a little of why he doesn't want to relate, I said, remembering the books and the things I heard. I always say that things happen for a reason. Isay was chosen by destiny, he cannot escape from it. But he cannot be left alone. Isay is little by little turning into a dragon by the power of Dryag Sama. The dragons have an infinite lifespan, or so Isay explained to my husband and I. We won't live forever and I don't want my only son to be alone, she says seriously. That's why he can use that power without his sacred gear. That's why I told him to help you. I could see that you are a good girl, even if you are a demon. Isay said the demons are very proud. You came here and lowered your head to ask my son for help. That's good, knowing when to swallow. Pride is very good, he says sincerely. Well. I said, a little embarrassed. Don't worry, a woman's pride is sacred, he says, smiling. Tell me. Do you like my son? She says curious. I can see it that much. I said nervously. If I'm a woman as old as her, tell me, how did you meet? She says and I get nervous. I'm going to be honest with you, the first time I saw her son I told him that he was a threat and I tried to kill him, I said with shame. That's very interesting, she says, a little surprised. At that time I was engaged to a man who only sees women as objects, and I was desperate to free myself, I said, remembering Razor. When I saw Issei's power, it occurred to me that he could help me free myself, but I acted badly and didn't get help from him, I said again. Yumi-san just listened attentively. I had lowered my head for the first time, but I didn't get help from him either. I was running out of time and I had to fight with all my strength and that of my nobility against that man. But I only delayed the inevitable, I said, remembering the rating game. I had given up, I was at the altar thinking about committing suicide, but Isay, without the slightest respect, entered the room, hit my fiancé, charged me and brought me to the human world, I said, remembering the spectacle that Isay made that day. That's why he left that night. She says, nodding. I thought he went to save me out of pity or because he needed something from me, but it was just a deal with my friend Sona so that we would stop bothering him. I was watching him from afar, I saw how he spent his time alone every day, he had a look of loneliness, I said sadly, and I remember when I watched Isay all the time, I even sent my family member to watch him in the middle of class. Are a stalker, says Yumi-san amusingly. See, it could be that he is seen like that. But I did it out of curiosity, I said nervously. Every day I became more curious and I watched him every day, it seemed like a routine, I was embarrassed when he realized what he was doing, I said again. What a daring girl, says Yumi-san. I am sorry, I apologized, embarrassed. After the meeting happened and I saw his fight against Hacker Yuku, it was incredible and dangerous, I knew he was strong, but that surpassed my imagination. I almost prayed for him to win, and then I realized that it awakened something in me, I said, well, my heart beat harder. I confirmed that something when I came here and talked to him, although I didn't want to accept it, he doesn't show any interest in me. I asked for the training to learn more about him and so far it hasn't worked, I said sighing. Rias-san, says Yumi-san as he sits next to me and takes my hands. I ask you to save my son, he tells me sincerely. But he doesn't want to know anything about me, he only helps me because you told him so, and he will stop talking to me when he finishes training, I said sadly. Don't give up, like you said, Isay is alone. He is afraid to interact with other people because he fears that something will happen to them, if something happens to them, I assure you that he will blame himself. It was always like that, since he was little. Blame for everything, he always takes responsibility when something happens where he is involved, he says, smiling sadly. That's why I'm asking you to save my son. He's selfish, but you're the first person I've seen trying to get close to my son. I'm asking you as a mother, she says, lowering her head. Don't lower your head. I know it will be difficult. And he may end up ignoring me, but I will always try to be with him and help him, I said sincerely. I would love to have you as my daughter-in-law, he says, hugging me. Afterwards we continued talking until Isay came. Some time later, it's already been the first month since Isay started training me. After my talk with Yumi-san, I tried to get Isay to open up to me more. It was a complete failure. As for training, I didn't think it would be that difficult. But it gave good results, or so I think. Isay says that he still hasn't used all my power, he also says that I'm a hot blood for going headlong into everything. And he still doesn't call me by my name. In 1 month I will go with my nobility to the underworld, I don't want to go. But it is something that is done in all generations. I would like Isay to come with me. I still don't believe you're asking him for training, says Sona seriously. I was with her at the CIO, we both played chess. He says I'm annoying, but I keep trying to like him, I said determinedly. I didn't ask you, she says, moving a piece. I want him to open up to me, so I can get along with him and who knows. We might have something, I said fantasizing. I didn't ask you either, says Sona. He's very serious. But Yumi-san says that he acts like that because he doesn't want to show his true feelings. I want to see the real Isay, I said, remembering one of the many talks I had with Yumi-san. When? Says Sona sighing. I got distracted. I said smiling. Rias? Why are you with him? It's dangerous to be with him, his power attracts problems and according to Azazel, there are some gods who have a grudge against him, she tells me seriously. He is carrying everything alone, although he denies it. Yumi-san is worried about him, he believes that if one day something happens to her and Goru-san, he would do something dangerous, I said seriously. They want me to live peacefully. Being the Sekiryuite is not good, it attracts power and many dangers. In the month that I have been with him, I could see the loneliness in his eyes. Yumi-san asked me to help him. I am not just doing it for Yumi-san's request, also on my own account, I said sincerely. Rias, you are. Sona says, but he interrupts her. In love? Yes. In such a short time I fell in love with him without even knowing him completely, but he doesn't show the slightest interest in me. He only trains me and doesn't talk to me about his tastes or his hobbies, he only trains me. I said, lowering my head. It could be that he wants to be like this as Sona, but I interrupt her again. I don't want it to continue like this. He has 2 parents who love him and worry about him, he subconsciously asks for help, behind that serious attitude there must be the real Isay that Yumi-san tells me about. I want to see it for myself, even if I don't make him fall in love with me, I want to see him anyway I said, raising my head. Rias? She says surprised. I know I'm concentrating on him more than on my nobility. But I can't help it, I want to be with him, I want to know more about him, I want to spend time with him, I want to be the person who sees the real Isay I said determined. It doesn't matter if he falls in love with me. I'm fine just being around him. Of author. Outside the CIO, in the tree just below the window, is Isay lying on a branch. DCH. I came here to escape from all the students and I heard this. Says Isay seriously. It's not that easy, Reteed. He says again, getting down from the tree and starts walking towards his class. A week later. Pav Isay. Keep it up I said seeing how the Reteed has some gloves made of her can. It's difficult. He says sweating. Remember what I taught you about control I said. She closes her eyes and little by little begins to stabilize. I did it she says excitedly looking at her gloves. Well done I said calmly and she was surprised. It's the first time you congratulate me she says surprised. But you're still a hot-blooded fool, I say calmly and she pouts. It's exhausting to keep them she says sitting on the floor. You have to get used to it. What you have just achieved is a killer technique, combining your power with the martial arts that I taught you, you will be able to win in almost all your fights. But, I said seriously, but, she says curious. You will only be able to use it in death matches, you will not be able to use it in the ranking game or in training matches, if you do. Someone may die I said seriously, and the Reteed nodded. Alright, I'm done with my part, I said again. That sounds like you didn't train me anymore. She says doubtfully. That's right, I won't train you anymore, you have to follow your own path and become strong on your own, I said calmly. But, I still don't feel strong enough she says quickly. Nowadays you can beat that Phoenix with a few blows, and you could beat Kakabiel with a little more ingenuity I said calmly. So? Can I fight at your side? She says timidly. No, I said seriously. But. She tries to say but I don't let her. You have your responsibilities, you already spent a lot of time with me, continue with your training. You don't have to do anything with me anymore I said seriously and she lowered her head. Keep training. Rias I said starting my way home. It's better that way. I can't keep getting involved with her. Is that it or you don't want to continue getting attached to her? I do not know what you mean. Whatever you say. Then Pav Isay. Start Pav Rias. She said my name. She said it finally she said my name I said excitedly. But she's not going to train me anymore. I thought lowering my head. I want to continue by your side. I whispered into the air looking at where Isay went. Chapter 9 starts the chapter. Pav Isay. How boring. It had already been 1 month since I stopped training Rias. I see her sometimes at school, but I try not to make too much contact. From time to time Isay talks to me and asks me to let him investigate my sacred gear, obviously I refuse every time he asks me. Now I'm at home, lying down looking at the ceiling, I have nothing to do since the holidays have started. What will you do? What do you mean exactly? I guess you realize that there are people watching your actions. I felt the stares. Her auras do not match those of demons, fallen or angels. I won't do anything as long as they don't mess with me or my family. And the Asgard theme? I do not know yet. You know that the previous ones and I support you in everything, it's up to you to join or not. I know. During these months I pondered the issue of whether or not to join Asgard. I would stay as I am, but I am not alone, my parents are also there, and I have my limits to protect them. I don't know what I would do if something happened to them. No Sekiryuite has been affiliated with any faction, but we will support you in your decision, says one of my senpais. What will I do? Isay they are looking for you I heard my mother's call. Curious, I get up and go to the first floor. Who's looking for me? I said curiously. At the door says my mother as she walks towards the kitchen. I walk towards the door and there is Rias next to her nobility. What's wrong Rias? I said seriously but curious. I wanted to inform you that my nobility and I are going to the underworld until classes start. Azazel Sensei and Sona will also go with their nobility he says normally, but his nervousness is evident. And? I said curiously. Well. I was wondering. He says timidly. Say it I said sighing. I was wondering if you would like to come with me. With us he says quickly. Go to the underworld. No thanks, I already told you to follow your path and I'll follow mine, I said, denying. But. He tries to say, but I raise my hand to shut him up. I'm not going I said seriously and she sighs and nods. Say hello to Yumi-san and Goru-san for me, she says walking towards a limousine. Take care she says as she closes the door and leaves. He took one last look at where Rias was and entered the house. What did Rias-chan want? My mother asks me. She was coming to tell me that she is going to the underworld. She also sends her regards to you I said calmly as she went up to the second floor. You should treat her better says Elsha. I cannot do it. Will you spend your entire life alone? Elsha says seriously. If this way I don't lose anyone, you promise to show us the future and change the fate of the Sekiryuite. Until now everything is the same, you run away from everything, you don't relate to anyone, you're still in the juggernaut, but nothing about that future that you promised us as senpai tells me. It's hard. The difficult thing is to bear the regret of not having done things when you could, says Elsha. What do you want me to do? Let him go and say. Hello, do you want to be my friend? But be careful, I attract all kinds of powerful beings that can kill me and kill you. It's a start. It's true, say my senpais. They don't help. After that talk, I decided to sleep for a while. Careful, I didn't have time to react when my room exploded. The Ulsh dragon balance break here. My armor made its appearance, Drake spread his wings, and I rose into the air. There was a lot of smoke from the explosion. Yumi, I heard my father shout. I looked quickly for them and saw my father who was hugging my mother who was bleeding from his head. No, back. I turned quickly to block a kick that destroys the armor on my arms and sends me back. The smoke from the explosion clears, and I could see that we are in a barrier that separates us from the human world. He is a demigod. Floating in front of me was a rather large man, bald and with golden eyes, wearing Japanese armor and releasing divine power. Sekiryuite, by orders of Amaterasu-sama, you will be executed, says the man seriously. Curse, get ready. Ichmaru, I shouted, and the aforementioned comes out of some rubble and quickly goes to my parents. Let them out of here, he shouted and quickly transported them out of the barrier. A rather peculiar being. Then I will go after your insignificant parents, says the man calmly. Damn bastard. You will pay me, I swear you will pay me, I said furious. Calm down, think things through. I, the one who will awaken. Do not do it, you are not calm to use it. I am the celestial dragon who steals the principles of God's domination. It is starting. Don't do it, Isay. I laughed at infinity and I despise dream. The world rejects you. I will become the red dragon of domination. It's always the same. Wait, it is dangerous for you to activate it in this state. I will plunge you into the depths of crimson purgatory. The juggernaut drive E. I shouted, throwing myself at the demigod. Chapter 10 starts the chapter. Pav Arthur. You're a killjoy, Arthur, Kuroka tells me. I had just returned from the underworld. Vali sent me to look for Kuroka and Biku who were at Lucifer's party. That red-haired princess is indeed strong, says Biku, looking at his half-disintegrated armor. When I arrived at the underworld, they were fighting Rias Gremory and Toju Kaneko. It was stupid for them to take the risk, I said calmly. Naya, I almost brought Shirin Naya, says Kuroka sighing. We have to prepare to move, those old men are planning something, says Vali seriously. What is that? Says Biku pointing to the bracelet on my wrist. The warning. I have to go somewhere else, I said, creating a magic circle. Where are you going? Says Vali, also curious. It's something personal, I found them later, I said, and was transported. I appeared in a forest, it was night and it was snowing. In front of me was the one who called me. We haven't seen each other for a year, you call me suddenly and in this place, I said, looking around. I need your help, you're the only one I can trust for this, he says slowly. He looks very bad. It seems like he hasn't slept in a while. What do you need? I said, curious. Take me to Asgard, he says seriously. Impossible. Currently Asgard is closed due to the brigade's attacks, I said, denying, and he sighs. What's happening to make you like this? I said curiously. Problems. He says, sitting against a tree. Does it have to do with what happened in Kuo? I said curiously. The demigod sent by Amaterasu attacked my parents and me, I lost control in the juggernaut, and then I don't remember anything, he says, closing his eyes. That's why you're so bad, I said, denying. I was worse before. He says, touching his chest. But not like now. I guess your vitality went with the juggernaut, I said, and he didn't answer me. Why do you want to go to Asgard? I said, sitting in front of him. I plan to make a deal. I know that Odin will not accept me, but I can make an agreement for the safety of my parents, he says seriously. What kind of agreement? I said curiously. Information for protection, he says simply. I understand. But currently you cannot enter Asgard. I can open a breach, but as soon as you set foot there, you will be attacked with everything, and given your condition, I said seriously, and he sighs. I don't know what to do. He says, putting his hand on his forehead. What about the alliance? I said curiously. It's ruled out. I don't know what they'll do when they find out about my past, he says, denying. I can take them to Susaku, I said, as an option, but he denied again. I can't bring her problems. She must be on other issues, he says, sighing. You have it difficult, I said, and he looks at the dark sky seriously. I'll have to take my last option, he says seriously. You mean that? I said curiously, and he nodded. Can you take me to Grigori? He says curiously. What do you plan to do in Grigori? A new voice was heard. This is not a good time. Vali says, Isay sighing. Then Pav Arthur. Pav Rias. Yesterday the party sponsored by my brother had been held. 20 days had already passed after the presentation of the young demons. In all that time he trained my nobility, he also trained on my side. I managed to make the technique that Isay taught me stronger and more durable. I showed the technique to my mother and she was quite surprised by the power she had. Today is the rating game between Sona and me. Yesterday I also fought against Kuroka Hellcat and Biku, they had come to take Kaneko, obviously I didn't leave them. They escaped thanks to the wielder of the strongest sacred sword, Caliburn. I felt a lot of discomfort just having her near her. Now I was in the living room of the Grimory mansion, next to me was my peerage and Azazel who was very serious. What happens for someone as carefree as you to be so serious? I said curiously. Well. 21 days ago something happened in Kuo, he says a little doubtfully, drawing everyone's attention. What happened? I said seriously. Shortly after we left the barrier was penetrated by someone with divine power, he says seriously. Is the city okay? Did something bad happen? I said quickly. The city is fine, it seems that. He says doubtfully. What happened? I said with exasperation. The Sekiryute's house was destroyed and he, along with his parents, disappeared all this time and the only thing they left was a crater where his house was, he says directly. How come he doesn't show up? What happened? I said worried. It is known that he fought against that divine class being, but it is not known how he concluded, she says seriously. I have to go look for it, I said, creating a magic circle. You can't leave, Kuo is temporarily closed to all supernatural beings until it is known what exactly happened and you can't lose your cool, you are a few hours away from having the rating game. It was wrong to tell you this, she says seriously. But. I said, but he saw me seriously. I would go look for him myself if the Sekiryute were from the Alliance, but he is not. As Lucifer's sister, you have to behave, she says seriously. I just lower my head and deactivate the transport circle. Okay. I'll concentrate on the game, I said sitting on the couch. Issei is strong. He will be fine. Then Rias. Issei. I understand your problem. But I can't let you attack Grigori, Vali tells me seriously. A moment ago I told you the reason for my problem. I won't kill anyone. I just need something that's in one of his facilities, I said seriously. We both stared at each other seriously. In your current condition you won't be able to do much. Worth a try. I can help you in another way, says Vali sighing. Why would you want to help me? I said seriously but curious. I understand your situation, that's why I will help you, he says calmly. Accept his help. It doesn't matter if it hurts your pride, says Arthur calmly. Okay. I'll trust you, I said sighing. Are you sure of this? What other option do I have? I even thought about joining the Biblical Alliance, but when they find out about my past. I don't know what can happen and I prefer not to risk it. I understand. I will support you in your decision. Thank you and I'm sorry for not listening to you that day. Don't worry, it's already in the past. I will make the preparations. I will come tomorrow, we will wait for you, Arthur says Vali, disappearing in a magic circle. Can I really trust him? I said seriously to Arthur. It could be many things but he has his say. We'll see each other later, says Arthur as he disappears into a crevice. Eve. I thought looking at my surroundings. You should get some sleep, you haven't since the battle with the demigod. I cannot do it. Don't push yourself, I'll stay alert, you can sleep a little. Okay, wake me up if something happens. It's so cold, I don't know how people can live here, I said as I left my tent. You finally wake up, Asian rebel, a girl with blonde hair and brown eyes tells me. She is my age and was dressed very lightly even though it was very cold. That girl was Eve. TCH. Shut up, Miss Upper Class, I said putting on a coat. So early and they're already fighting, says Arthur leaving his tent. She's the one who starts it, I said, stretching my body. Aren't Asians supposed to be very polite? Says Eve curiously. But the people who deserve it, I said, lighting the fire. I deserve it, I am of high birth, but someone as humble as you would not understand it, Eve says arrogantly. Whatever the princess says, she can't make a simple fire spell, I said amusingly. At least I can use magic, she says, freezing the fire that I had a hard time lighting. Hey, I complained and she stuck her tongue out at me. What are we going to do today? Says Arthur, sighing. Office told me that she had people interested in joining us, she said they were humans with long Inus type sacred gear, I said, lighting the fire again. Do you know anything else? Says Eve. I think one is called Cow Cow, I said trying to remember something else. Is there a girl? Says Eve again. Nope, do you feel alone? I said curiously. Being in a group of only men is uncomfortable, she says with a shrug. Okay miss, we'll look more for the feminine side, I said, and Arthur nods. And breakfast? Says Eve looking at her nails. The first one to wake up is supposed to be the one who prepares it. I said looking at her. The upper class doesn't cook, she says, smiling. You don't know how to cook, right? Arthur says, smiling slightly and Eve blushes. Oh, of course I know how to cook, she says quickly. Whatever you say, I said looking for the things to make breakfast. I'll go get more firewood, says Arthur as he walks away. I was looking at some things in my backpack when someone hugs me by the sword. When will I meet your parents? Eve tells me. What do you think if after the new ones get settled, we go to Kuo and I'll introduce them to you? I said turning around and taking her hands. Sounds good to me, I have to meet my stupid boyfriend's parents, she says smiling. When you don't throw a tantrum, I love you more, I said, kissing her hand. HMPH she just turns her head and removes his hand from her in fake anger. Oh, is the little princess angry? I said, putting my hands on her hips. Silence, rebellious Asian, she says in false anger. Okay, I'll stay quiet, I said, hugging her. I say. You have to. Live, I heard and quickly opened my eyes. Bad dream? I heard in front of me, there was Arthur, and next to him was Volley. Curse. The juggernaut brings you that memory. He was going to wake you up before you get to that moment. I get up from the tree where I was sleeping and stretch. Here, says Volley, giving me 2 papers with magic circles. And this is it? I said, curious. Memory stamps, she says calmly. I understand. I said, taking the stamps. It's necessary for them to live in peace, she says again, and I nod. Where are you taking them? I said curiously. A place far from any faction. A small town in the mountains, she says calmly. We'll give you some time. I'll come for them in a few hours, says Volley, retreating into a magic circle. I'll go visit her. You already know where I'll be, Arthur says, walking away from her. I stayed for a moment looking at the place where Arthur was and went. I sigh and slowly walk to my parents' store. Tchmeru was inside taking care of my parents that I left them sleeping since the day of the attack. Are you cold? I said and he denied. Can I ask you one last favor? I said and he stared at me. Can you protect them from the shadows? I said and he gives his military salute and nods. Thank you very much, I said, giving him a cheese that he accepts and leaves the store. Slowly I approach the beds where my parents were sleeping and take out the 2 papers. There is no turning back, Elsha says seriously. Finally you talk to me. I'm still angry, I just want to confirm your decision. What I can do. I can't go to Asgard and I won't risk the biblical alliance. It's your decision, she says and cuts the link. I sigh and put a paper on my father's forehead and then on my mother's. I'm sorry. I know you tried a lot to bring me into the world. But I prefer that you live in peace without worrying about me and being in danger. I love you very much, I said while activating the seals. Mom, Dad, I said as I sat on the floor. Chapter 11. Chat begins. Rias. The winner is Rias Gremory. Hear Graphia's announcement after having destroyed Sona's strategy with our power. Isay. During the entire raiding game I couldn't stop thinking about Isay and her parents. Thanks to Akeno I was able to think of a strategy for the game. Even though they outnumbered us by 1, we were able to outrun them with raw power. That's on the side of Akeno, Kaneko, Zenobia and me. Sona's strategy was a very efficient one, they were able to take out Zenobia and Gasper. That strategy only works if there is a balance of power and intelligence. I can't compete with Sona in intelligence, but my power far surpasses her. There was a special rule of not destroying things inside the mall. The game gave us the disadvantage. Zenobia, Akeno and I couldn't go all out. I couldn't use my power freely, nor could I use the technique that Isay helped me create on my friend because of her power to disintegrate with 1 hit. The only thing left is to crush them all with my new physical power. I used physical fortification with magic power, my demonic aura, and the combat style that Isay taught me. They didn't expect me to go with a melee. I easily beat Saji Jinshiro, he came directly to me talking about her dream. I honestly didn't pay much attention to having Isay in my head. I hope I haven't hurt her feelings by ignoring him and crushing him with a punch. Some men's feelings are more fragile than women's. After defeating Saji-kun, Kaneko took care of the other pawn that came with the first mentioned, and we advanced to Sona's base. On the way, Gasper's retirement was announced, something I expected, but over time I will fix it. I also heard how the 2 knights of Sona were retired along with a bishop, they also retired Zenobia. The airhead must have been reckless, although I can't say much. I got to the center of the playing area and there was Sona next to his last bishop. It seemed strange to me to see her so calm in that place, until Kaneko told me that this was a projection and that the real Sona was on the ceiling. I told Kaneko to wait for Akeno's attack signal and attack Sona's bishop while I went against Sona together with Asia. On the way to the roof I ran into Tsubaki and Hyoudou, they were both fighting. I gave a silent order to Hyoudou and he quickly summoned Durandal and surpassed the queen of Sona. I told Hyoudou to stay with Asia waiting for Kaneko and I was going to the roof. I fully trusted Akeno who was waiting for my signal. Already on the roof I found the real Sona who looked at me seriously. I was going to give the signal to Akeno, but I decided to take care of her myself. I was calm until I used Isay's name and that I was not in a position to participate in the raiding game with my thoughts on it. I got serious and simply increased my aura to the maximum. Sona was surprised and backed away a little. I was confused by that action she did, but I remembered what Isay had told me in our training. You don't realize it, but your new level of aura can affect those around you, try to keep it under control, a serious Isay told me while we were both meditating. I quickly controlled my aura and prepared to finish the game. She attacked me with a water snake, but she simply evaporated the water with my power. She was going to launch my attack when she gave up and ended the game. Afterwards I was transported to the infirmary. I was not injured, I was simply there for Zenobia and Gasper. I scolded them both and also congratulated them for their efforts. I left the infirmary and went where they gave the scores for our game. On the way I met someone unexpected. It's been a while, Princess Rias. The one in front of me was Zekrom Bale. Mr. Bale, I said, bowing my head a little. It was a good game, I congratulate you on how you've progressed so far, he says calmly. Thank you very much, but Sona also made a lot of progress, I said calmly. That's right, I expect a lot from her and I dream from her, he says smiling. If she'll excuse me, I'll go see the results of the game, I said as I start walking. There's something else, says Mr. Zekrom, stopping me while he takes my hand. I quickly remove my hand and look at him seriously. I found out about your closeness to the current secretary, he says calmly. We're just acquaintances, I said seriously. I know he trained you, he says smiling. How did you find out? Only my brother, my nobility and Sona knew about that topic. Did you think that the sister of the current Lucifer and the heir of one of the 72 would not be watched? He says calmly. It was just a favor I asked him, I said seriously. Just that. I know you get quite involved with him and his family, he says calmly. They're just good people, I said again. I don't doubt it. But I advise you to stay away from the secretary permanently, he says seriously. I just watched him. I don't know if you know this new information, but the current hacker Yuiku and secretary are involved with the Chaos Brigade, he says seriously, and I am surprised. Issei with the brigade? That can't be. I can't believe it. Ask your brother or Governor Azazel. There are many things that are not known about the current secretary. It was recently discovered by captured members of the brigade that the secretary was or may still be a member of the Chaos Brigade. He says calmly. If he excuses me, I'll leave, I said seriously and quickly walked away from him. It's impossible, I can't believe this. But. It may make sense to want to get away from me and the factions, but how would someone so protective of his family be with those people? And Rias. Issei. It had already been a few hours since he sealed my parents' memories. I entrusted Tynged with my last two requests. One is that he take care of my parents from the shadows, and the other is that he erase the memory of my grandparents. He simply accepted. I gave him some copies of the stamps that Vali gave me, and he went to Kuo where my grandparents were. New lives and a new opportunity to start without the dangers that surround me. Now what? It's time I went to see her. I started to walk away from the camp. It's been a year since that happened and I haven't returned to this place since. Walk slowly through the snowy forest. It was almost midnight and the place was quite dark. But that didn't stop me on my way. I walked for 30 minutes until I reached a tree where there was a grave at the base of it. This must have been Arthur, I thought when I saw some flowers that were placed recently. I sat in front of the tombstone and stared at its name. Evelyn Eve Libov. I'm sorry for not coming to visit you, I said, sitting in front of the tombstone. You know better than anyone that I don't like losing the people around me. I said slowly. Everything got out of hand, Eve. I had to take the last resort, something I wanted to avoid completely, I said, thinking about my parents. I know you were completely against that, but I didn't know what else to do. I still don't know what to do. Even Hacker Yuku is helping me. How pathetic am I? But my pride goes for a ride when it comes to my loved ones. I said again. I want to believe that they will live in peace from now on. It is very dangerous for people to be around me, and I prefer to be alone. Even though I don't like it, I said, caressing the tombstone. You don't know how much I need you. I feel blind without you, I said, clenching my fists. Am I so valuable that you throw away your life like that? I said, remembering that day. Starts flashback. How it ends like this. Hold on, brat. Hear Belzer's voice. Eve. Next to me was Eve. Unlike me, she had a hole in her chest. Ice. He says weakly. Tear. You use it, I said as best I could as she slowly gave him the phoenix tear. Mom, Dad. I'm sorry, I won't be able to give you the grandchildren you wanted so much. I say. You have to live. I quickly opened my eyes as I felt someone kiss me, and I felt a liquid pass through my throat. The pain and tiredness disappeared. No. Eve, I said quickly as I stood up and took her in my arms. Head. Look at you. Asian. Rebellious, he says, smiling weakly. No, why, I said, putting pressure on the wound on her chest. Why, you are my world. You are what gives meaning to my life. I couldn't live without you, she says slowly as her breathing slowly falls. Please don't leave me, I said, crying. I'll meet with my family. I'll be watching. Live life for me, he says, caressing my cheek. I want to be with you. Did you want to meet my parents? We'll go together so you know them. Please don't leave me. I won't stand it, I said, hugging her tightly. I love you so much. But this is inevitable. Take care of yourself. I love you, she says, closing her eyes. Eve. I said, moving her body, but she didn't move. Please. Open your eyes, I said again. Buddy. Elsha, help me, Eve isn't waking up, please help me, I said quickly. Nothing can be done. She's gone. No, I need help, please, she screamed, but no one came. Someone help me, she screamed again. Use the juggernaut is the only way. Then to flashback. I thought you were gone, I said without taking my eyes off the tombstone. She was doing maintenance on the place. She says from behind me. Thank you very much, I said slowly. I don't deserve them, I couldn't help them that day, it's the least I can do, she says, sitting next to me. Don't blame yourself, it was all my fault, I said seriously. But I could do something. She says again. Do you remember when we met? She tells me suddenly. You tried to kill me when she helped your sister, I said, remembering when by chance I found Arthur's younger sister and helped her return home. At that moment I attacked you with all the intention to kill, and you just dodged or blocked with your BM. I think you were having fun while I was trying to kill you, she says calmly. I smiled slightly, at that time he was stronger than him, now he is as strong as me. That was my first defeat, I thought my life would end there, but you just helped me up and said you had fun, she says again. I defeated you because you looked at your sister at every moment, I said calmly. Later LeFay told me that she was lost and you only helped her, she says with grace. I only remembered how I found a 12-year-old LeFay lost in London. Then I got to know you better and you ended up getting into my problem with my parents, she says again. You helped me escape and we started our trip. On the way we met a problematic Russian woman who complained about everything, she says smiling, and so do I. You were fascinated by her, and when you tried to talk to her they both fought with just 2 words. I had never seen a girl so poorly spoken, she says amusingly. I have never seen such a peculiar couple, he says again. You're not the one to say that, I said, smiling slightly, and he shrugged. She got us into thousands of problems, she complained about everything and did nothing to help with the cleaning. But I say with complete confidence that Eve was my best friend, he says sincerely while a tear escaped. For the memory of my friend, I will not allow you to throw your life away, he says again. I don't have anything to do anymore. But I'm not going to be suicidal out there, I said sighing, and he nodded satisfied. I think so. He's already here. I said, feeling Volley's aura in the camp. I honestly didn't think you would accept so easily, he says as we both get up and go to camp. My parents come before my pride, but it will be the only time I accept help from my rival, I said calmly. What are you looking at, big-eared? The first thing we heard was Volley's voice. We both get closer and see that Volley was looking seriously at Tynged, who was pointing his Kodachi at him. Calm down, Tynged, I said, approaching. Tynged jumps on my shoulder, still looking at Volley with hostility. Did you do it? I said curiously, and Tynged just nods. Are you ready? Says Volley calmly. That's right. I sealed all memories of me, they will only remember their own lives together without having me, I said seriously, and he nods. Let's go, he says, entering my parents' store. Don't worry. Believe it or not, he's almost in the same situation as you, says Arthur, also entering the store. He let out a deep sigh and entered the store. The place they are going is in Europe. I won't tell you exactly where, but I give you my word that they will be safe, says Volley seriously. He will go with them, I said, pointing at Tynged. No problem, says Volley, creating a magic circle. Very well. This is a farewell, friend, I said, looking at Tynged, who jumps to my hand. He gives his military salute and jumps into the magic circle that Volley created. I'll be back in a moment, says Volley, disappearing with my parents and Tynged. Arthur? Am I doing things right? I said, still looking at where my parents were. You know what Eve and I thought about this, he says slowly. It's better that they stay away from you, he says seriously. What happened? I said, interested. They're moving, he says seriously. TCH. How does Volley put up with them? I said angrily. He doesn't do it. We are in the brigade, but we do what we want, he says calmly. Any sign of the bastard? I said seriously. No. When I see it I will finish it without thinking, he says seriously. Don't rush. I did it and see how it ends, I said seriously. I know. That's why I'll end up using both of them, he says, putting his hands on both swords sheathed on his hip. Then Pav Issei. Start Pav Rias. Is it true? I said seriously to Azazel-sensei. Ah yes, it's true, he says sighing. I went to look for Azazel-sensei as soon as I received the rating game score. Why didn't you tell me? I said seriously. We captured some soldiers from the brigade and their testimonies say that Hyoudou Issei was a member of the Chaos Brigade. He had his own team and that is all that is known for now. The Alliance already classifies him as an enemy, he is in the same classification as Volley, he says seriously. But.he can't be one of them. He must be a brigade strategy for us to follow, Isay, I said quickly. There is nothing that can be done, he says, leaving the room. I can't believe it. This can't be possible. Chapter 12. Start the CAP. Rias Gremory couldn't believe it, rather, he didn't want to believe it. The boy he had fallen in love with was a member of the Chaos Brigade. A group where everyone wants to destroy the world or dominate it. I can't accept it. He is nothing like those terrorists. He just wants to protect his parents from him. Were Ria's thoughts as he observed the landscape from the window of the train heading to the human world. Rias, the one who spoke, was the Gremory Queen, Akeno Himejima, who was worried about the king and her friend. What's wrong, Akeno? Rias answered without looking away from the landscape. Azazel-sensei said that we should not approach him if we find him, and that we should notify your brother or him, the black-haired woman began, carefully observing his friend. What will you do if you find him? She asks curiously. Nothing. I won't do anything, he won't appear, says Rias, looking at the queen calmly and sure of her words. How do you know? Akeno asks when she sees Ria's confidence. I just know, Rias finished, looking out the window again. He wouldn't risk exposing his parents. That's why he disappeared, Rias mentally tells herself, closing her eyes. There was little left to reach the human world. He had a lot to do and prepare for the future raiding game. A moment ago Michael's ace, Hyoudou Irina, was informed that Hyoudou Issei had disappeared some time ago with her parents and that he was a possible member of the Chaos Brigade. This has to be wrong. Issei-kun can't be one of them, says a surprised Irina at the news that her superior told her. That's what the fallen governor's men got, the source is some low-ranking soldiers from the Chaos Brigade, says a calm Griselda Quarta to her student who had a surprised expression. This has to be a hoax, Issei-kun is the kindest and most protective boy I know. He would never think of destroying the world, Irina completely denied what her superior said. How do you know? As far as I know, the current Sekiryuite has not shown signs of good behavior, said a serious Griselda. You don't know him. He may be a little more serious now, but I know that he is still the Issei-kun that I knew when I was little, Irina quickly answered her superior's question. Do you really believe that? Do you really know him? Says Griselda, serious and curious. Issei-kun is not a terrorist, Irina assured with determination. He has already been registered as an equal to Hacker Yuiku. There are orders to capture him if he gets involved in alliance affairs and, if necessary, kill him, were Griselda's harsh and last words as she left the room. Of meetings. Issei-kun is not one of them, he is someone who is gentle and protective. No matter how serious he is now, I know that he is the same boy that I fell in love with, Irina said to herself, remembering her childhood days with her friend and secret love. We are located in a mountainous place where two people are in front of a machine. Will it work? Says a man who looked 30 years old, had brown hair and was wearing black armor and a dark green cape. That's right, it will reverse the effects of the nun's sacred gear. I hope your pawn does the job well, answered a young man of 19-20 years old, black hair, glasses and dressed in a wine-colored uniform. They both looked at the machine that was in front of them. He will do it and he will die when he fulfills his purpose, answered the brown man seriously. What about the Sekiryuite and the Hacker Yuiku? Asks the black-haired man with glasses. TCH. With my new power I will be able to clean up those humiliations that both Celestials gave me, answered the brunette with fury, clenching his fists. HMPH, I don't know about the power of the Hacker Yuiku, but the Sekiryuite is strong, the black-haired man warned seriously because of the brunette's confidence, although he cared little. Don't compare me to you, human, the brunette answered with disgust as he walked away from the place. If Hyoudou gets involved in this, I can assure you that everything planned will be ruined, was the black-haired man's thought as a fog surrounds him and he disappears from the place. Volley Lucifer was thoughtful. A few hours ago he had helped his rival relocate his parents to a fairly safe place. He knew why she helped him, they were both in almost the same situation, he with his mother and half-siblings and his rival with his parents. For that reason and because he did not want his rival to attack Grigori, no matter how indifferent he is to the people around him, he was grateful for the help they gave him when he was younger. He will deny everything, but Grigori's people are the closest he ever had to a family, obviously he would never forget his mother. Bali the aforementioned had left his thoughts because someone had called him. What's wrong, Biku? The albino asks calmly. In front of the albino is a young man with dark brown hair, dark eyes and wearing ancient Chinese armor that was used during the Three Kingdoms period, dark red with golden touches. Hiroka discovered that old people move alongside heroes, Biku said calmly. Your goal of him? Asks the albino without interest. The usual, take his inheritance and kill the current demon kings, Biku answers amusingly. As long as they don't get in my way, I won't do anything, says the albino seriously. Arthur is not back yet. Is he still with the Sekiryuite? Biku changed the topic, already knowing that Volley was not interested in the topic about the old people. He said that he would talk to him about some things and come back here, said Volley calmly. Are you sure you let him? I know he has his say, but his reaction to the Sekiryuite's call leaves me doubtful, says Biku, this time leaving the joking side behind him. I trust Arthur, says Volley seriously, knowing that Arthur was not going to betray him. It's okay. I'll trust him, says Biku, moving away from the albino. I thought you were going to see them. Vali looked at the purple sky of the underworld as he heard the voice of his dragon companion. I prefer to do it another time. But that short response, Vali began to walk to the camp where he feels that all of his equipment was already there. Now what will we do? It had already been 1 day since Isay received help from his rival. It was difficult for him to come to terms with the idea that his parents no longer remember him, but it is a price he has to pay so that they are not in danger because of him. Arthur gave him his word that his parents would be safe and he trusted his old friend. First. Fix this place, says the chestnut looking at the camp. The grass was quite high and he had to build a new barrier. The chestnut tree spent the next 3 hours cutting the grass and other arrangements to make it a fairly acceptable area. He did it more so as not to think so much about his parents, that's why he did it quite slowly and without using his powers, so as not to do it faster. Buddy. Isay was observing the result of his work quite satisfied when Drake spoke to him. What's going on? I was talking to the previous wielders about the replacement of the juggernaut and they said that they were all going to get into the center of the sacred gear. I would accompany you, but you need me to use 100% of the boosted gear. Are you still angry? Obviously. You know they don't like you using the juggernaut. The brunette only lowered his head because of what his partner told him. If he had kept a cool head like Belzerd had taught him. There is nothing you can do now. They may be angry about what happened, but they will continue to help you so you can move forward. Isay did not answer, but he was a little encouraged to know that his senpais would continue to support them. Train a little, you haven't done it in a while, but don't overexert yourself. It's true. The brunette nodded to what his companion said and began to walk away from the camp. Since the day of the demigod's attack he did not train and he does not have the talent to be strong very quickly, but he compensates for his lack of talent with his perseverance and ingenuity. He even remembers how Eve made fun of him for his lack of talent when they had met. It lasted very little since he kicked her butt without the balance breaker. He smiled at those memories that he would cherish forever. He started with a few laps in the forest to warm up a little. The race was a little difficult for him because of the snow. He stepped wrong somewhere and could sink. How he hated the snow, but when it gets too much together. He warmed up for 20 minutes and then started with some stretches. Remember to practice the flow of your aura. The brunette nodded at what the dragon told him. Whenever he used the juggernaut it brought him side effects, his aura and control became erratic and he had to train them again. Brat. Isay stopped at the call of one of his senpais. Yeah? Enter boosted gear. He was surprised by the sudden call, but quickly leaned against one of the trees and proceeded to dive into the boosted gear. The chestnut tree appeared in a completely white place, you could see some tables with seats and the previous bearers were on them. What's wrong? Isay couldn't finish speaking because he received a tremendous slap that sent him to the ground. Oh okay. I deserve it, says Isay, rubbing the bruised area. You're an irresponsible idiot, says a serious Elsha as she watches Isay get up. Give him another one so he can get rid of his stupidity, says a man sitting next to the other bears. I don't think they're just calling me to hit me, says Isay, ignoring the man and seeing that Dryag was next to him. It's true. We found something quite strange in the core of the boosted gear, says Elsha in a serious tone. And what is it? Says Isay curious. Come. See for yourself, you two Drag, says Elsha, starting her way to the place where the Juggernaut's curse was previously. We'll stay to let you know if anything happens outside, said a senpai from afar. I haven't been to the core in a while. What exactly is in that place? I once tried to go, but the curse wouldn't let me, asks the rather curious brunette. It is the core where the core of the sacred gear is supposedly located and my true power, obviously I cannot access it. Belzerd and I were in that place when each of us died. We very rarely left there, but it was just a blank space, Elsha added, while the three of them still continued walking. But that changed. That's why we're going there, right? Said the brunette and Elsha nods. They walked for a few minutes until they reached a similar place where the previous bearers were, but there was a kind of double door with the seal of the Hyoudou in the middle. That is new. I was surprised that this appeared and, since I don't come very often anymore, I don't know when exactly it appeared, said Elsha, watching as Isay knocked on the door. How strange. Said Isay, removing his hand from the door when he felt it calling to him. Did they try to enter? We couldn't. Whatever it is, it must be for Isay. He won't let us touch it, Elsha responded to the dragon's question. For me? Isay said surprised. What will you do? The brunette was silent for a moment, still observing the door, feeling how it was still calling him. For now, leave it like this. We don't know what will happen if he goes in there, come back and restore your power, Elsha said seriously. It's true, although I'm curious, first go back to your 100% and then we'll see this. Isay just nodded and left the sacred gear with Dryag. Only Elsha was left in the place, looking seriously at the door. I wish that fool Belzerd was here. He would know what to do. Elsha sighed and proceeded to return to the other bearers. She was still angry with Isay, but she knew that she did it for the love of him. His parents. The place remained silent and lonely. The door began to open slowly, revealing a red glow, and then closed again. Whatever it was, only Hyoudou Issei could find out what was inside. Chapter 13. You're not ready yet. You need a clear objective to move forward. If you don't, you will end up dead. Isay opened his eyes in surprise upon hearing those words. What? He was breathing heavily and sweating too much. Buddy. Briag. Did you hear that? Asked the brunette, still recovering. No, I didn't hear anything. Isay closes his eyes, trying to control his breathing and think more clearly. It had been 3 weeks since he settled in the camp. During that time he spent his time training and thinking about what to do. Ever since he knocked on that door in the core of the boosted gear, he had felt strange and, for some reason, he felt like he was being watched. It's not like Drake and his senpais, it's like someone else was with him at all times. Are you okay? For a moment I didn't feel your conscience. I'm fine. Surely you didn't hear anything. The brunette responded to the dragon's question. No. I only lost your consciousness for a few seconds. I think it was just a dream. It must be because I have so many voices in my head. He didn't take it much importance and decided to get up and then leave the store. You're finally coming out. The brunette froze when he saw someone waiting outside his store. She was a woman with platinum white hair, blue-green eyes, good figure, she wore a kind of light armor, and she looked 28 to 30 years old. Dalia, what are you doing here? The brunette said nervously when he saw the woman. The mouse sent me a message saying what a stupid thing you did, Dalia said seriously. I had no other option, said Isay, lowering his gaze a little. You could have asked me for help. You know I would have done everything possible to help you, said the silver-haired woman, still seriously. It's my responsibility. You already have enough problems and I didn't want to add more to you, Dalia sighs when listening to the brunette. Well, she has her problems. She would have helped him without hesitation. Oh, look for them, Dalia said, and Isay sighs and looks at the woman seriously. It's better that they stay where they are. They will no longer be in danger by being next to me, said the brunette, looking seriously at the woman who approaches him and slaps him. I won't change. Isay couldn't finish complaining because Dalia hugged him. I had already told you that you can't continue avoiding things. You can't do everything alone, from time to time you can ask for help, said Dalia, hugging the brunette who also reciprocated the hug. I tried, believe me, I tried. I thought about all the options with their pros and cons, but none of them were favorable, said the brunette slowly. If I talk to her, maybe she can help you, said Dalia, separating from the hug. It's done. They are safe in the place Vali took them to. Isay denied what the silver-haired girl said. Vali? The hacker Yuku? You asked him for help and not me? Said the angry woman, stretching Isay's cheeks. Huelta, the brunette tried to say, enduring the pain that the woman caused him. Explain, Dalia said seriously, leaving the brunette free to rub his cheeks. Well. Isay proceeded to explain how he ended up accepting the help of his rival. Dalia listened carefully to what the brunette said. Tynged had told him something, but nothing related to hacker Yuku, just something about an albino who looked like a woman. Why go to Grigori? Asks the curious woman. I know that the Fallen have memory erasing machines. You know I'm very bad with magic. That's why I was going to steal some of those, but Vali intervened and was ready to give me a hand. Arthur trusts him and if he trusts, I will too, answered the brunette. Ah. I don't agree with this, Dalia sighed at what she heard from the brunette. It's better this way. Tynged will send me some reports every month if he remembers. Said the brunette, although the last part was hesitant. Won't you change your mind? Says the silver-haired girl trying to make Isay change. If you have the key to being the strongest in the world, I might change my mind, said the brunette, and Dalia sighs. She knew she couldn't change the stupid brunette's mind, but she had to try. But erasing every memory linked to her only child. As a mother, that is very bad, said Dalia, closing her eyes. I know what I did is wrong and looks bad, but I prefer that to their lives ending because of me. I don't want to feel that feeling again, not again, said the brunette seriously and sadly. Dalia knew who she was referring to. She did not know the brunette's girlfriend. When they met she had already died, but he told her everything related to her. He would have liked to have met her. How about your problems? Were you able to talk to him? The brunette changed the subject, but that question made the woman sigh. I don't have the courage to talk to him. I don't deserve it, said the silver-haired woman sadly. Well, get that courage. You come and tell me not to avoid things, and you do the opposite of what you say, says Isay, pointing to a seat under a tree. They both sit and are silent for a moment. Did you even see her? Do you know how she is? The brunette speaks when he sees that the woman did not speak. I know that she is now Lord Auden's bodyguard, Dalia says slowly. Just that. And your mother, were you able to talk to her? The brunette asked, and Dalia denied, making him sigh. How long have you been like this? 10 or 20 years. You have to talk to them. Tell them that you regret everything and want to start over. Take advantage of the opportunity you have, said the brunette, putting his hand on the woman's shoulder so that she could. I looked at him. I don't feel worthy. I don't even deserve the title of mother, Dalia says as she shed light tears. A year ago I thought I could talk to her with the courage you gave me. But when I saw her I couldn't even get close. Her possible reaction scares me, seeing her stupid mother after 20 years. Saying she wants to go back to begin with, it's very hypocritical of me, she said while wiping away her tears. You have to do it. If you don't try, you won't know what can happen. You are a good woman, you made mistakes, but you try to fix them, Isay told her. And if she hates me because I abandoned her? I don't want my daughter to hate me, I prefer that she still continues to believe that she continues to work with her unfortunate father, Dalia said, and the last thing with resentment. You have time to take away that hatred. About a century if you ask me, answered the brunette, and the last thing earned him a blow on the head from the woman. My mistake. But you understood what I mean, said the brunette, touching his head in pain. Yes, I understand that a child is giving me advice, but I appreciate it from her. Next time I will go talk to her, Dalia said it with a little more confidence. I'm glad. Now, how are you here if Asgard is closed? Isay questioned curiously. I found out that in the human world there were many stores to buy cheap things, and just when I was in the human zone of Norway, your Mao sent me a message about what you had done with your family, Dalia answered calmly. He still continues with her addiction to discounts. Will his mother and her daughter be the same? That doesn't reflect how you left Asgard, said the brunette, and the woman got nervous. Well. It could be that they fired me in the middle of a job in the human world and abandoned me, thus not being able to enter my home due to its sudden closure. Answered Dalia, looking away. How did they fire you, is that possible? The brunette was surprised and angry. What has this woman been doing since she was fired? Oops. Dalia laughed nervously at Isay's blank stare. Silly Valkyrie was heard throughout the forest. What a duo. Curious. We concentrated on another place, rather, at the entrance of a cave surrounded by trees. At the entrance there was a beautiful woman. Amaterasu, the beautiful woman, spoke with a serious tone. What do you want, Yuzum? Another voice was heard from the cave. I found out that you sent a subordinate to the human world, specifically where the new biblical alliance was formed, said the now Yuzum with a serious tone. I also have a message from Amida, which is. I thought I told you that you can't touch the Sekiryute, she spoke again when she received no response. Don't get involved in my affairs, Yuzum, and tell Amida not to bother the goddess. Amaterasu spoke with hostility. Your actions put the other gods in doubt. Personally, I cannot allow you to endanger more people, especially if those people are human. The Sekiryute is still human, and our duty is to take care of them, Yuzum spoke without being fazed by the hostility of Amaterasu. It won't be long before I stop being one, Amaterasu responded with an amused voice. But his soul will still be human, Yuzum questioned. I don't know why the sudden interest in little Sekiryute. But don't put more people in danger because of that interest, Yuzum warned, walking away from the place. You don't understand. That little Sekiryute is special, and I will continue to make him more special, so that he is worthy of sharing my bed, said Amaterasu with an amused tone. Shidorina was not having a good time. She was ordered to live in Kuo. In the new Grimory residence, where Rias Grimory and his nobility have lived since their return from the Underworld. She hasn't been cheerful since she was told that her best friend and secret love belonged to the Chaos Brigade. Zenobia, Asia and her new friend Kiryu try to cheer her up, but she wanted to see Isay. She wanted him to confirm that he is not a terrorist, he couldn't be one of them, or so she wants to believe. Rias was the same. She was worried about Isay and his parents. She still can't believe that in such a short time that boy has fallen in love with her without even trying. But she couldn't do anything anymore. The next time she sees him she would tell him what she feels. She knows she might be rejected, but she would still tell him so. Both, angel and demon, have it difficult for a chestnut. Chapter 14. So? Do you want this Valkyrie to fulfill the wishes of her dragon hero? Isay was having a hard time. 3 days ago he had been found by Dalia, a Valkyrie she met 1 year ago when she found him injured in a forest in Norway. They both got along well. Isay saw her as a friend of hers who has her flaws, but who is worth knowing. But the only thing that bothered him was that she was a Valkyrie. Something she would like to change, but she knew it was impossible. Good luck, partner, Isay cursed at the red lizard inside his arm. She wanted to run away from this torture, but she couldn't say no to the woman. She tries so hard to do this kind of thing. Come on, hero, satisfy your wishes with all my being. Isay swallowed all the saliva she could. He was scared and couldn't escape. He prefers to go with Amaterasu herself and surrender to being in his current situation. Dalia. You can't do this. I know that every Valkyrie has to please the heroes, but I'm not one of them. Isay tried to avoid that act as much as possible. He didn't want to do it again, it was the 3rd day they did it. But you are my dear hero. Let me please you, that is my role as Valkyrie, Dalia responded with a pout. But. The brunette was left without options. He did not want to repeat the same thing again. The Valkyrie was insatiable in this area. He is proud of his abnormal stamina, but the woman he had in front of him was insatiable. Am I not good enough for you? Is it because I am not pure? Dalia said it while light tears began to come out of his beautiful eyes. No. It's not that, I'm just not used to doing this every day, Isay answered quickly. He didn't want the Valkyrie to enter into his depressive side, not again. Then let me please you, said Dalia with puppy dog eyes. He knows that look is one of my weaknesses. Let me please you. Don't deny one of her purposes. Isay sighed as he listened to his partner. He hates being soft on people he trusts, especially if they are women. Okay Dalia, let's do it one more time. Isay had already given up. Once again he had to allow himself to be pleased by the Valkyrie. Okay then. Open your mouth and close your eyes. The brunette did as requested, closed his eyes and opened his mouth. I'll soon feel it. That feeling of having something sweet in his mouth, its taste, the shape of it, his taste buds, had already engraved that taste since Dalia decided to stay with him until he can return to Asgard. That's it. Eat it all, Dalia said it with a happy face when she saw how Isay ate it. She can finally fulfill one of her roles as Valkyrie. In Asgard, I couldn't do this since her job is different, but with Isay can satisfy that wish. It's delicious. Isay finished tasting the caramel wild boar that Dalia cooked for him. Yes. It's my specialty. It's a shame that my job prevents me from showing my talent, Dalia pouted, but quickly changed to one of happiness to see how Isay continued eating her food. I don't know why you complain if you always end up giving in. I do it so that I don't go into a depressive phase. What you say? Isay sighed internally. Elsha and the others spoke to him normally again. His senpais, led by Elsha, have been observing the door at the core of the SG. They still don't know anything, only he and Dryag can knock on the door. He tried to enter, but Elsha forbade him until she knew what exactly that door was. Dryag didn't care, always the same with the carefree dragon. Here. This is cold boar soup. Dalia continued handing her plates to Isay. He resigned himself to continuing eating the Valkyrie's dishes. Thanks to its improved metabolism that absorbs all foods as nutrients. This scene was repeated since Dalia decided to stay with him until she could return to Asgard. The Valkyrie loves to cook, the bad thing is, she only knows how to make wild boar dishes. She doesn't complain about their taste and variety, just that she would like to vary the dishes. By the way. Do you remember that map you found in those ruins in Jerusalem? Dalia asked an Isay who was still eating. Yes. Were you able to decipher it? The brunette left his food because of what the Valkyrie said. On the last trip he took with his old team, before that day, Isay had found some catacombs that were under some ruins outside of Jerusalem. He wouldn't pay so much attention to it if it weren't for the fact that in the catacombs he felt that map was calling him. He regrets that his brain does not have the decryption function. I managed to decipher it and it is a map of an ancient city located beneath what is now a desert that caught Isay's attention. How not to be interested? You don't see a city beneath a desert every day. I think it would be interesting to go. The brunette continued with his food, there was still too much of it. Rias was thoughtful. A few days ago she had been informed that the raiding game would be delayed a few months. This is because they had found clues to the murderer of the heir of the Glacial Ebola's house. But that wasn't her business. What she was thinking about was how to finish fixing the problems of her nobility. She had already made progress with Kaneko, but the biggest problem was Akeno. She had gotten him to use her fallen powers, but she still holds back. She knows she won't fully accept herself until she gets over her past. She knows that her best friend wears a mask that hides her true self. Rias the aforementioned came out of her thoughts upon hearing her name called. What's wrong, Azazel-sensei? The one who had entered the CIO was Azazel. I have news from the secretary. Rias was surprised to hear that and remained silent for Azazel to continue. I was able to locate him through one of my boys who were in Europe. It seems that he is still on the move, the fallen man said again. I'm glad you told me this, but why? Rias changes to her serious expression. She was surprised that the fallen man told her information about Isay. This information is only known to you, Serziches, Michael and my informant. We believe that we can negotiate with the secretary. Serziches says that he is a good boy and wants to make contact with him. The problem is that the secretary does not trust anyone. Start Azazel while sitting on the couch. My brother wants to contact him. But weren't you the ones who signed him up to capture him? Rias said it seriously, but internally she was happy that her brother accepted Isay. It's complicated. It's quite a movement. On the other hand, I can't decide much. I can only tell you that the other leaders and I want to make a kind of alliance with the secretary, said the fallen one, surprising Rias again. Why do they want to make an alliance and why are you telling me? It's not like I can do much, said Rias, very curious. You are the only one who got involved enough to get close to him. We plan to wait for him to stop moving before sending you to inform him about the alliance, said Azazel and smiled when he saw how Rias smiled. Really, will I be able to see Isay? Rias spoke excitedly. That will depend if he wants to see you. The fallen man shrugged his shoulders. These young loves and their dramas. I'll pack my things. I'll tell the boys I'll be gone. Rias spoke excitedly as she was about to leave the CIO. Wait a moment, Azazel stopped the excited Reed. What's wrong? I have to get ready, said Rias in a hurry. You will not go alone. Your peerage will go with you, as well as Irina, since she is also involved with the Secretary. Rias pouted upon hearing that. She has no problems with her nobility, but with the angel there was a kind of rivalry. Start flash back. What did you want to talk about? Rias curiously asked Irina, who had a serious expression. It had already been 2 days since they returned from the Underworld and 1 since the angel went to live with them. I just wanted to tell you that I am the closest to Isay-kun. I won't let you get ahead of yourself, the angel said seriously to the demon, who became serious. If you're the closest. Why didn't she tell you she was leaving? Irina stayed silent when she heard that. Just because you're her childhood friend doesn't mean you're her priority, and for your information, I'm her student, Rias said again. They both stood watching with fire in their eyes, metaphorically speaking, that day their rivalry had begun. Rivalry over the boy they both fell in love with. End of flash back. It's better that people he knows a little go, that's why you guys will go, and Sona will stay here to take care of the school, Rias sighed again when she heard the fallen man. He'll have to go with the brunette self-proclaimed childhood friend. Okay. I'll inform the rest so they can prepare, said Rias, leaving the room. Haha, these young loves are fun to watch, Azazel stayed in the CIO, laughing at the young women's problems with the rebellious Secretary. The 2 celestial dragons never joined any faction. Vali, being half-demon, indirectly broke that tradition by being in the demonic faction. The Secretary is not on any side, it will be the target of other factions. If we can make this alliance and he provides us with information about the brigade, it could be that he can live fairly peacefully under its care. With those thoughts he decided to return to the teacher's lounge. He likes teaching. The Issei got chills. For some reason he feels that this little expedition will be troublesome. Look at these prices, the brunette sighed when he heard Dalia's excited cry that she was buying some things before taking the last trip to go to the target desert. I hope it's interesting. Chapter 15. Rias Gremory was excited. Azazel had just informed her that Isay had stopped moving and it was time for her, along with her nobility plus Irina, to go meet him. Although he does not have enough hope that the brunette will accept the alliance. She knows that he is very distrustful, in the little that she knows him, she realized that that is one of his greatest characteristics. But she was also excited to be able to see the brunette after a whole month. She also wanted to see the brunette's parents, plus Yumi-san. Rias wasn't the only one excited, Irina was excited too. When her superior, Michael, informed him that she would go on an ambassador mission with Isay, he did not hesitate to accept it. Although she doesn't like Rias to go. But she is still excited to see her childhood friend. On the side of Rias' nobility. Akeno was the most curious on that mission. She is struck by the fact that the brunette has fallen in love with his friend in such a short time without even trying. She even remembers when Rias told her. It was on the way to the Underworld, she reproached him for that supposed infatuation, who in her right mind would fall in love with a complete stranger. It's not that she discriminates against the brunette, but from the first day she saw him she gave him that feeling of problems. But he couldn't do anything now. In every conversation with Aridid she brings up the topic of how she fell in love with the brunette. Because of her friend, now she is curious about the Secretary, just that, curious about what he is like. On the side of the Gremory Bishop, Asia Argento, she wanted to get to know the brunette more. He was the one who indirectly helped her by eliminating Rainer. She was the strongest among the other 4 fallen who had tricked her, and she wanted to thank him properly for that. Maybe they could be friends. According to Azazel, the nun had a gift for interacting with dragons, which she demonstrated when she went to the familiar forest and when she spoke pleasantly with the former dragon King Tannen at the Underworld party. It may be that she has the same effect with the Secretary and they can get along. Zenobia was curious about the brunette and, if the alliance goes well, he may possibly be the man she is looking for to have strong children. She didn't interact much with the brunette, just a few words when she met him and others a few days before the meeting of the 3 factions. But the curiosity about the chestnut tree was true. On the side of Kaneko Toju, Kibayudo and Gaspar Vladi, they had not interacted enough with the Secretary, they were only going by order of their king and Azazel. Very good. Azazel caught the attention of the Gremory nobility and Irina. The group was in the basement of the Gremory residence, below them there was a large transportation circle that would take them to Azazel's informant and from there they went with the Secretary. Rias and Irina. This is an important mission and your first mission as ambassadors with someone moderately hostile. I know you trust the Secretary, but don't let your emotions cloud your goal. The demon and angel duo nodded, although internally only they wanted to see the brunette and ask him for some explanations. This is very curious. Azazel said that upon receiving the informant's location from him. Is something bad happening? Kibayudo asks. I found it curious that the Secretary is in that place where there is nothing notable. But be ready, we all position ourselves in the magic circle after Azazel's words. Good luck and take care was the last thing they heard before being transported. Are you sure it's this way? Isay asked, looking at the great desert. The coordinates indicate that we are just above the ancient city. Dalia said, looking at the map she had deciphered. Well. I have to make an entry, said the brunette as his SG appeared. Don't shoot with everything, warned the Valkyrie, moving away a little. Here I go. Isay created a mini dragon shoot and pointed at the sandy ground. Ebist, he increased his power once and fired at half power. The shot hit the sand, causing a medium explosion and the lifting of sand. The Sekiryuite stopped the shot, looked at the Valkyrie, who nodded, and created a magic circle, from which a large shot of water came out that went straight to where the chestnut tree's shot went. A stylish entrance, said the brunette when he saw a large vertical tunnel made of glass. Your control of the Welsh dragon's power is better since the last time I saw you, said Dalia, as she also saw the large tunnel. I have a good affinity to the power of Dryag. You create a barrier so that our spy does not enter, said the brunette, looking slightly into the distance. It was difficult to feel it. Those auras. It seems that the Grimoire does not give up. Isay sighed at what Dryag said. He thought the silly Redeed would leave him alone for a while. It's ready. Dalia had finished putting up a barrier as Isay requested. She also added a camouflage one so that no one would see the entrance of the place. Let's go. Those who are far away will be able to enter sooner or later. It is better to go ahead. The Valkyrie nodded at what the brunette said. They both jumped into the tunnel to see that city shown on the map. A barrier? Spoke a young man seriously. Did you notice? Akeno spoke curiously. They had arrived recently. They were met by Azazel's informant, who introduced himself as Tobio Icuse, a human with a Longinus type SG. What will there be in that place for him to show himself? Hyoudou said curiously. Azazel said that there was nothing in this place. I think he was wrong. I don't think the Sekiryuite comes here for anything, said a thoughtful Tobio. What do we do? Zenobia asked. She was curious about what they were going to do now that the brunette knows they are there. Who is that woman and why is she with Isay? Rias was in her own thoughts as to why the brunette was with that woman. The barrier that woman put up is good. It will take us a while to get in, said Tobio, looking at the barrier. This is no ordinary barrier. It feeds itself on the magical power in the place. That woman is very good at what she does. Tobio was curious about the woman accompanying the Sekiryuite. If not, she's wrong. Her name is Dalia, or that's what he understood when the Sekiryuite was yelling at her when he was following them. It seems that the Sekiryuite is accompanied by a beautiful woman. He asked me how long they had been together, Akeno said, trying to annoy Rias, who had a crimson aura surrounding her. Don't bother, Akeno, the Redeed said with a serious voice. Ifufu, how bad. This caused slight laughter in the Grimoire nobility and brought out some curiosity in Tobio. Issei-kun. You have a lot to explain. They were the thoughts of a certain angel who was smiling while a dark aura surrounded her. Is it normal for Irina-senpai to be like this? Asked Atrave. The nervous half-vampire. Irina was always someone special, said Zenobia, also looking at Irina. Now we just have to wait. Asia said curiously. I'm already making a hole in the barrier. They will be able to enter in a few minutes, Tobio responded calmly. Aren't you coming with us? Rias asked, curious about what Tobio said. Azazel gave me another task. I will open the barrier and the rest is up to you, Tobio replied calmly. What if we can't handle him? Hyoudou asked seriously. He felt that the human was very strong. If he is like I think, he won't attack them if they don't pressure him a lot, Tobio responded. What makes you believe that? Akeno asks curiously. Just a hunch. Tobio just smiled as he said that. She said it wasn't dangerous unless you bothered him. Isay and Dalia were still walking through the tunnel they made to reach the supposed city. Who were they? Was Dalia's sudden question. The one who follows us from Europe is a human. Those who arrived before we entered here were demons and an angel. The brown man spoke carelessly while he was still falling. Do you know them? The Valkyrie asked again. A little, was the brunette's simple response. Who do you think that angel is? He does not have the energy of a seraph or an angel of great power. I have an idea of who he is. Is that light? The brunette left his mental chatter to see how there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Dryag saying that, a pair of red dragon wings emerged from the chestnut's back, thus slowly stopping his fall. On the Valkyrie's side, she only began to stop because of her flight spell. Wow. They both said when they saw a large illuminated space. Isay looked in the direction that the Valkyrie set and saw that what illuminated the place was a kind of giant ball of crimson fire that floated on what was the ceiling, which was all glass. That's it. Feel the energy of the fire. Isay and Dalia were curious about what Dryag said. They both analyzed the fireball and were surprised. It's dragonic power, Dalia said, surprised, but Isay was the one who was most surprised. It's the same as my aura. No, the aura of the boosted gear, said Isay, surprising the Valkyrie even more. How is that possible? I know that dragonic power is the densest and most durable in disappearing, but this place must have been around for a long time and, from what it feels like, there is no one in this place. The Valkyrie did not believe it. What was happening? That fireball has the aura of the boosted gear is almost impossible. Isay was more curious. While Dalia was saying things about him, he had asked his senpais if any of them were connected to this place. I think I speak for everyone, and none of them have ever been in this place. Isay became more confused than he was. None of his senpais had anything to do with this place, perhaps Belzard. But he had already been to what was previously the place where he lived. They should leave that aside and go to the city center. In that place I feel another point where my power is felt. They both looked at each other and nodded. They went down to what was the city, and from what could be seen, the place had not housed anyone for centuries. What were supposed to be the houses were made of mud and straw, some made of wood and stones. The further they advanced, the houses changed, they were better made with stones and a kind of cement. This one is empty too, said Dalia looking at one of the houses. As they moved forward, they both looked in the houses in case they found something that could tell them the time where that city was, but all the houses were empty. How strange. The houses are better made the further we go, but all of these are empty. No trace or anything to identify the exact date. From what the houses show, I assume they are from the generation before the middle or before that. Isay was trying to use his limited brain to draw conclusions from the place. Isay. The aforementioned turned upon being called by the Valkyrie and was surprised by what he was looking at. Isay was surprised by what was there. What they both saw was a kind of mural. In it there was an image of a man on a seven-headed beast. The beast was a hydra that was dead, and from what the image shows, it was killed by the man who was standing in a victorious pose over its body. But what caught the pair's attention the most was what was on the man's left arm. It was the boosted gear. Rias? The brunette asked a question, still looking at the man who, curiously, looked like him but older, with black hair and green eyes. I don't remember having that man as a carrier, not that I remember. Remember? You are the only one who can know who that man was. Elsha also sounded curious about the man. She and Belzard were some of the oldest Securitate and saw almost all the wielders who came after them, but none of them were the man who was drawn on that mural. More than 3,000 years passed and I had many carriers in that time. I couldn't remember everyone and I remind you that he barely spoke to some. The collective sigh was heard in the chestnut's head at what Drake said. The dragon was right, the bearers before Isay barely spoke to him when they were alive. There is an inscription here. Isay let Dryag and his senpais continue talking while he went with the Valkyrie. What language is that? The brunette was surprised when he saw the writing on the mural that Dalia pointed out. It's a kind of mixture of languages. I only recognize the principles of ancient Latin, the rest I don't understand. The Valkyrie sighed in frustration at not being able to understand what was written. She was proud of her knowledge, but this was beyond her. I recognize Old Hindi and some characters that are related to Egyptian. Elsha made her contribution, but not even she, who is the oldest, knew what the inscription said. There are characters of the dragon language. Dryag also contributed a little to the matter. So many languages. I'll take a photo, said the brunette, taking out his cell phone. Do you know of anyone who can translate it? Dalia asked as she let Isay take the photo. I know someone who is addicted to the unknown. Was the only thing the brunette said, remembering a magician addicted to studying. Already having the photo. The pair continued to move forward. Rias, his peerage, and Arena were looking at the large glass tunnel that Isay and the woman accompanying him made. They didn't know if it was the right thing to do to just walk in like that. Though Bo opened the barrier big enough for the group of demons and the angel to enter while he left. I say we jump, said Zenobia nonchalantly. They had been watching the tunnel for half an hour, waiting for Isay to come out, but he didn't come out until now. What if we planned something before entering? Asked a half-vampire with the Nekomata supporting him with a nod. Rias was thinking things through carefully. If she were the old Rias she would have already jumped in head first, but Isay and other experiences have made her mature a little. Arena only wanted to go with Isay, but she also has the responsibilities that her superior gave her. It seems very deep. Said Asia, looking out of the tunnel a little. Rias? Akeno looked curiously at her friend and her king to see what they would do now. Very well. We will do this as follows. Hyoudou and Zenobia will go first, I will follow. Rias could not finish as she saw how an intense red light appeared in the tunnel. Be careful, Hyoudou shouted as he jumped away from the tunnel. The rest did the same, and a flare of crimson fire came out of the tunnel. The fire stopped little by little, and the group looked through the tunnel again. Moments before, with Isay and Dalia. The duo had arrived at the center of the big city. On the way they found more houses but no sign of life or more murals. A cemetery. The duo stopped when they saw that in front of them there were countless graves represented by white headstones. It's the same dialectic as the mural. Impossible to read without having deciphered the language, said Dalia, looking at what she believes are the names of the deceased. Try to copy the characters you see. I have the ones on the mural for a possible translation, and it is better to have all the possible characters to have a better translation rate, said the brunette before the blank look that Dalia gave him. What? The brunette was confused when he saw the look that the Valkyrie was giving him. You're saying a lot of intelligent things. It's very rare that you think about things other than fighting. The brunette looked offended by what the Valkyrie said. Is this because I didn't know how to answer you a year ago? I'm very intelligent, I'm not a super genius, but I know a lot of things. The brunette defended himself. Whatever the man says who doesn't know how to answer some simple advanced equations, said the Valkyrie, laughing while she took out something to write down what the brunette asked. I'm not good at math. The brunette was still offended by what the woman said. Both went stone by stone looking for the different symbols and characters for a possible translation of the mural. The brunette was curious about what he was saying since the boosted gear is involved. They both stayed like that for about 15 minutes until they finished. As much as they continued, they found themselves with the same characters, and with that they had enough. They continued advancing until they reached what looked like a temple. It was quite far from the tombstones, and there was not a building within 200 meters around. Isay decided to go there since Drake told him that there he felt the greatest concentration of her power. As the duo entered the temple, the unlit torches lit up when Isay stepped foot inside. How scary. The brunette commented as he entered unconcerned before the Valkyrie's blank stare. The temple was large, inside it was empty, there were only columns with torches, and then everything is an empty space. There is nothing, Dalia said as she looked at Isay who was standing in the center of the large room. This is right where Dryag's aura is. Could it be that? Isay had the idea of materializing the boosted gear in the hope that something would happen, but nothing. How boring. The brunette couldn't finish when he saw that just below him, the ground opened. Isay jumped to where the Valkyrie was, and they both saw where the brunette was previously. There was a statue of a man. What stood out was the emerald green gem on his chest. Is that what I think it is? Dalia asked, pointing to the gem. I think so. Isay had the same thought as the Valkyrie. Any idea why there is a boosted gear gem in this place? I'm just as surprised as you. Isay sighed when he didn't receive the answer he wanted. Let's see. I know it's a trap, but they're practically telling me to touch the damn gem, Isay commented as he walked to the statue with the intention of taking the gem. Are you sure? Was the Valkyrie's question. She was worried about what might happen. Isay touched the gem with his boosted gear, and it reacted. Source detected. Starting tests. Huh? The duo was surprised to hear a voice from the boosted gear. Tests completed. Starting user aptitude test. The statue began to shake, and the gem on his chest began to glow. Ebist. Dryag. The brunette began to retreat when he heard the typical increase, but in the statue that began to be surrounded by crimson fire. The cover. Isay quickly went to Dalia, and both were surrounded by an energy shield. Test started. It was what they both heard, and the rest was a sea of fire. Chapter 16. Everything was a sea of fire. A crimson red fire. Within that sea was a sphere that could barely support that sea of fire. Inside the sphere was a serious Isay and Dalia who helped the brunette with the barrier that protected them. TCH. Those flames are very strong. We can barely hold them back, Isay gritted his teeth as he saw the cracks in her barrier. He was also surprised, he was even curious about how they ended up like this. First they found the said city that was on the map that they had found a long time ago, then they found that in the city there was an old carrier of the boosted gear that no one remembers, not even Dryag remembered having had that man as a carrier. Another thing is that curiously, the man in the drawing was slightly similar to him. That stopping Isay comes out of his thoughts when he hears the Valkyrie. It was true, the sea of flames little by little stopped. Get ready. I highly doubt the statue will stop. Dalia nodded at what the brunette said and put herself on guard. The attack finally stopped, and both could see that the temple they were in had been destroyed, or rather, it had melted. How hot were those flames? Ebist. They both watched as the statue slowly walked towards them. The Ulsh dragon balance break here. Isay put on his armor and stood guard. I'll go straight ahead. Attack from a distance if you see I'm in trouble, said the brunette seriously. He knew that he could not underestimate the statue with the same skill as himself. Dalia distanced herself and prepared some attack magic circles. She knows that Isay likes to fight one-on-one, but this time she asked him to help him if she is in trouble. That shows that her opponent is not an easy thing. Isay fired his dragon shoot at the statue which simply received them, creating a screen of smoke. Ebist. He quickly put his arms in an X shape to parry the statue's blow. He is strong, his armor could barely withstand the blow, and he felt a slight numbness in his arms. Isay kicked the statue and rushed towards it to give it some combos between punches and kicks. I don't do anything to him. Isay distanced himself when he saw that the statue only received his blows and no damage. Ebist. Let's see now. The brunette increased his power 6 times, 3 increases ahead of the statue, and launched the attack. This time the statue defended itself from Isay's attack, but, surprisingly, the statue defended itself very well. Ebist. The statue did its 4th raise and hit Isay, knocking him away. Another fire attack, Isay shouted as he saw how the statue's arms were surrounded by fire. Inferno. The voice was heard and the statue places its hands on the ground. This confused Isay and Dalia. Below, Isay reacted to Drake's shout and jumped. Just below him a pillar of fire emerged that consumed the chestnut tree. Isay Dalia shouted worriedly as she saw how Isay was consumed by the pillar of fire. A burst, the pillar of fire dissolved, revealing Isay expelling the increased power from him. Almost. Dalia sighed when she saw the brunette in one piece. Abbast, Isay looked at the statue seriously. The ranged attacks don't seem to work on him, the physical attacks seem to work, but that is according to the increases he makes in it, and those fire attacks are too dangerous to receive in the face. I didn't want to end up like the temple. 2. He has the boosted gear ability and is the most annoying, meaning that in the fight of attrition he is the one who would lose. He has a magnification limit, although he can withstand almost 500 magnifications without resetting, the statue being that, a statue, does not have that problem or so he believes. The good side is that the statue can only do the increase every 10 seconds. You don't have a time limit for increases, that can be an advantage to overcome it, but you have to find its weak point, and I think I already know what it is. Enlighten me. The gem. It activated when the boosted gear touched it, if you destroy it will end. The chestnut agreed with the dragon and began to make a plan to destroy the gem. The gem. Isay looked with a poker face at the statue that buried the gem in his chest. Could he be listening to our talk? I don't know. But all that remains is to destroy the statue completely. At this time the Longina Smasher would be useful. Isay sighed at what Dryag said. The only option he could think of was to make an attack with a lot of concentrated power. Abbast, Dalia, prepare a barrier to protect yourself, things are going to get crazy here. Isay preferred to act when he saw how the statue increased his power for the 5th time. Dalia sighed internally. That boy prefers to act rather than think of a good strategy, but he does not deny that he sometimes surprised her with how he performed in the heat of combat. She left her thoughts behind and made the strongest barrier she could so as not to be harmed by what she was going to do to the brunette. This is Say launched a concentrated dragon shoot at the statue that had stayed in place without doing anything. The shot hits the statue and generates an explosion that shakes the entire place. The Grimoire group and Arena had come down after the big flare and were surprised to see a city in that place, but they put that aside when they saw a big explosion in the distance where they felt Isay's power. You have to go fast. Arena was the first to spread her wings and go in the direction where the explosion occurred. Let's go. Rias gave the order to the rest and, like Arena, they spread their wings and went after the angel. Everyone was serious. They could feel the strength of those auras that were the same but at the same time different. At 2. The group had arrived at the battle zone and they could see Isay in his balance breaker stopping a statue that had a stone sword. Isay-kun was the cry that Arena gave when she saw how the brunette had been kicked flying by the statue. Isay, the Grimoire group and Arena watched as the woman accompanying the brunette went to the place where he was sent flying. Isay stepped propelled by his thrusters in front of Dalia. Stop bothering. The brunette had materialized his staff and with it he destroyed the statue's sword. The statue in response hit Isay again, but he managed to defend himself with his weapon. Both began a fight at a good speed while the Grimoire group, Arena and Dalia watched. What is happening? Why is Isay-kun fighting with a statue? What is this place? And who are you? Arena was asking question after question to Dalia who was not looking at her, she was just observing the fight. Isay. He's none of your business, girl, was what Dalia said without looking away from the fight. Of course it is, I'm Isay-kun's friend, Arena responded, earning a serious look from Dalia. And where were you when he needed you? Dalia asked seriously, leaving Arena silent. Who are you? Rias asked a serious question, but she received no answer. Abbast. Rias was going to ask again, but was interrupted by an Isay who fell silent in front of them. His base power was bigger than mine, I increase his power about 6 or 7 times, I'm already on my 40 increase, and it doesn't seem to affect any of my attacks. Isay looked at the statue seriously. It was incredible that a simple statue could do that. If it weren't for trying to kill him, he would be having fun. Any ideas? I'm open to some. I'm curious about the voice that came out of the boosted gear when you touched the gem. Me too, but this is not the time to think about that. You could ask the Valkyrie for help and use a penetration spell to destroy the chest area. I would like to do it myself. I don't like that another being or thing has the same power as us. I think the same. Elsha sighed as she heard Isay and Dryag. Men. They are all equally proud. Concentrate power into the staff, shape it into a spear, and pierce his chest. You should already know how to do it. I hope it works. To transfer. Isay increased and transferred his power to the staff, it gained a green glow, and a spike of energy formed at one end. The statue increased its power once again as it saw how the chestnut tree was preparing to attack. Here I go. Isay shot out with the spear pointing at the statue that began to be surrounded by fire. Dalia, along with a group of young people, watched as the chestnut tree shot towards the statue. That attack again. Dalia raised her barrier again when she saw that the statue was going to make that fire attack. Get out of here if you don't want to get hurt, the Valkyrie told the young people seriously while she sees how Isay was about to make contact with the statue. I'm not leaving. I have to talk to Isay-kun, said a serious Irina. Rias and his group decided to imitate the woman and created a protective barrier. Who does he think he is to tell us what to do? Rias was brought out of her thoughts by falling due to an explosion, and she was not the only one. Her and Irina's nobility had also fallen due to the strong explosion that was created. They quickly got up and saw that there was a large crater where Isay and the statue were before. Where am I? Isay was confused. A few seconds ago he had managed to cross the damn statue, and then he appeared here. He was in a completely white place. It made him remember the place where the previous bearers were, but in that place there was nothing. Finally, someone is coming. The brunette turned around quickly when he heard an unknown voice. You in front of Isay was the same man that was drawn on the mural, only older. A pleasure to see the current bearer of the sacred arm of the dragon, the man responded nonchalantly. Sacred dragon arm? You mean the boosted gear? Said a curious Isay. Boosted gear? So that's what it's called. Curious, said the man looking into nothingness. You didn't know that the sacred gear was called that? Isay asked. Sacred gear? The man looked confused by what Isay said. What do you know about the sacred arm of the dragon? Isay asked curiously. It is a very mysterious and very interesting tool. It took me all my life to discover some of its secrets, the man responded smiling. This type. Tell me, young successor. Is the town okay? I'm worried that the seven-headed snakes have returned after my death, asked the interested man. Isay looked at the complicated man. It seems that he doesn't know anything about the sacred gear or how much time passed. Have you ever left town? The brunette asked seriously. He needed that answer to confirm something. They never let me out. The town was underground and those who came out were those who were looking for food, but they didn't go far. I never came out because I was the one who kept the place safe, thanks to the sacred arm, the man responded calmly. The brunette confirmed what he was thinking. The man in front of him knew nothing of the outside world. Is this a mental space? Isay asked curiously. This place is a spiritual link that I myself create for future generations to pass the aptitude test, thus giving my power and knowledge, said the proud man. Can you see my memories? Asked the brunette. Only if you allow me, said the man calmly. Very good. I want you to breathe slowly and see the things that I will show you. Isay did not know how the man was going to react to him, but he had to show him some things regarding the world. Very good. Let's see what you want to show me, young successor, the man smiled excitedly. It seems that he was excited to see everything that changed. Look. Isay, wake up. Dalia moved the brunette's unconscious body. It had already been 10 minutes since she was trying to wake up the brunette. Valkyrie, Welsh dragon, what's wrong? Dalia asked the dragon worriedly. My partner is elsewhere. Better said, his consciousness is somewhere else. Like somewhere else. He couldn't have just left like that. Dalia was very worried about the brunette and did not hesitate to lose her serious role. We are looking for them. For now, keep saving his body. Dalia blinked in confusion at what the dragon told her. Where the hell has the chestnut's conscience gone? Isay. Dalia turned around as she saw the Gremory group and Irina approaching. What's wrong? Irina and the others could not continue advancing because a barrier did not allow them. Don't come closer, the Valkyrie said seriously. Let us help. She can heal him, Rias spoke quickly, pointing to Asia. We don't need her help, Dalia responded, ignoring the group of young people. Who do you think you are? Let me see. Isay-kun stayed. Irina hit the barrier. She was angry with the woman for not letting her friend approach her. I'm Isay's partner and stop bothering me, Dalia responded without looking at them. Isay knows us. He trained me and I know his parents. Let us help. Rias was trying to be polite, but that woman is making her angry. I can't do it. Isay didn't tell me anything about you, Dalia answered. Rias and Irina were getting angry because that woman wouldn't let them near the brunette. Let us and Irina had created a spear of light. She was ready to attack, but she saw how Isay stood up suddenly, scaring Dalia. Don't scare me like that, idiot. Dalia hit Isay on the head for scaring her with her sudden awakening. That hurt. The brunette touched the affected area while he stood up. You deserve it, for you idiot. Who wakes up like that? Only a fool like you. Dalia was still angry with Isay, who only nodded with a poker face because of how loud the Valkyrie was. Don't look at me like that. You must be thinking something bad about me. When we return you will have a punishment. Isay sweated at what Dalia said. What an annoying woman. Good. There is nothing to do in this place anymore. Isay stood up before Dalia's furious look and the rest's surprise. What happened? Dryag said you were gone, Dalia asked curiously after putting her anger aside. I'll tell you at home. Now it's better to leave. I released a lot of power and someone annoying could come, said the brunette calmly before Dalia's sigh. Good. But when we arrive you will tell me everything while you let yourself be satisfied, said Dalia, setting off Rias and Irina's alarms. Say whatever you want but let's go. I have a headache, Isay nodded while she sighed. The pair walked to the exit under the furious gaze of Rias and Irina and the curious gaze of the rest. Hyoudou Issei spoke in angry Irina. Not now, Irina. Isay responded while she was still walking. Wait, you have a lot to explain. Irina ran until she was in front of Isay, who looked serious at her. Why would I have to give you explanations? Isay spoke seriously. Because I'm your friend, the brunette with pigtails answered confidently. That position is too big for you. We were only friends when we were children, now we are just acquaintances. Irina was surprised by what Isay said. It hurt her that I said that to her. Isay continued on his way but stopped to stop a sword with her hand. How dare you tell her that she's been very worried since she disappeared, said an angry Zenobia. Don't bother. I'm not in the mood, Isay said seriously, pushing Zenobia away with a simple push. Isay. Rias said slowly. I told you to go your way. Stop looking for me. Rias the aforementioned lowered her head a little because of what the brunette said. See, can you stop running away? Surprisingly, the one who spoke was Asia. Those words stopped Isay. It's true. The Alliance wants to make a deal with you for mutual cooperation, Rias said quickly. You can return to Kuo with your parents, you can live a fairly normal life with the protection of the Alliance, the Redeed said again. I'm not interested, the brunette continued on his way again. Wait, Irina ran again towards Isay, who sighed at how insistent the brunette was. Is it true that you were a member of the Chaos Brigade? Isay was slightly surprised by the question, something that only Rias could see. This is something from the old people or cow. And what if that's the case? Answered the brunette seriously. Surprising everyone, except for Dalia, who stayed out of the conversation. It can't be. You're not like them. Irina denied from what she heard, she didn't want to believe it. What makes you believe that? I've changed a lot since I was a child. I'm not the same child, Irina, Isay said seriously as he walked again. Think about it please, said Rias, but Isay continued on his way. The place remained silent and Irina fell to her knees with tears in her eyes. She did not want to believe the things that the brunette said. She knows that Isay would never change, but the words that she said to him. It really hurt her. Isay and Dalia had left the place, but not before destroying the mural where the image was. You really are an idiot, Dalia broke the silence as they both continued walking. You think I don't know? Isay said reluctantly. I just wanted to remind you. Isay sighed at what her friend said. It really hurt her to say those things to the angel, it hurt her to see her look, but it is necessary for her to stay away from him. He doesn't want anyone else to be around him. You still with the same. You are a huge idiot, insensitive, stupid, enemy of emotions and even more idiot. The brunette remained silent as he continued to be insulted by the previous bears. He deserved it. Buddy, I know. Show yourself. I know you're there. Dalia was confused by what the brunette said, but she was surprised to see how a young man with dark brown hair appeared in front of them. It's nice to meet you, Sekiryuite. My name is Tobio Ikus, I understand that you know about me, the young man spoke. Suzaku's cousin. What do you want? The brunette spoke seriously. He knows he's strong, he can feel it. I was tasked with delivering this to you. Tobio took out a letter from his pocket and threw it to Isay. What is this? Isay looked curious at the letter. The terms of the alliance between you and the Biblical Alliance, said Tobio simply. Does she know about this? The brunette asked a little nervously. That's right, Tobio responded, smiling slightly. Shit. I'll think about it. You'll have my answer in a while, said the brunette, putting the letter away. I will inform the higher-ups. Tobio nodded as he walked towards Isay. This is a message from her. Expect an immediate response, he said, handing him another letter that the brunette took slightly nervously. Okay. We're leaving, Dalia, said the brunette, putting the letter away. The Valkyrie creates a transport circle and both disappear from the place. Ah yes, you are cruel, Azazel. Making them meet him to see his reactions, Tobio sighed as he went towards where the others were. Chapter 17. Why are you so afraid of that girl? Dalia and Isay had returned to the camp in Russia. The brunette opened the letter from Suzaku as soon as it arrived. The letter from the Alliance could wait. She's very scary, answered the brunette, remembering an event in which that girl brutally beat him for something in a thermal bath. She's so scary to take off your mask of a serious boy and mysteries. Dalia sobered when she saw how the brunette showed something of her true personality and not that facet that she created to not relate to others. I'd rather you cook something other than wild boar than make her angry. Isay looked away so that the Valkyrie wouldn't see the slight blush that appeared on her face when she discovered that he had abandoned her role out of fear of Himejima. And what does the letter say? Dalia was curious about the letter that the brunette was reading. She wants to meet me to decide my punishment. Isay responded, closing her eyes. She thought that moment was going to be more in the future, but she was wrong. Will you be angry? The brunette sighed at Dalia's question. He couldn't run away from Suzaku because if he didn't he would receive a worse punishment. I can't ignore her. That woman is scary when she wants to be. But with that annoying bird of hers, Isay had already given up on that woman, she and her mother were just as scary. When are you going? Dalia was having fun seeing the expressions that the brunette showed, something that is not seen every day. She can't leave Japan as she is the carrier of that bird. I will have to be careful so that no one bothers me and I can talk to her in peace. As for when I will go. The letter gives me a week to be at the meeting point and 1 day to confirm that I will go. I will tell him that I will go in 3 days. Dalia nodded at what the brunette said. Now to the other topic. What are you going to do with the alliance? Dalia asked seriously. That was a very serious issue for the brunette, especially because of his past. I don't know. I have something else on my mind right now, Isay said that, looking at her left hand, something that caught Dalia's attention. What happened in that place? Although the statue was strong, it wasn't strong enough to make you unconscious, the brunette sighed when he heard the Valkyrie's question. What happened was. Back. So that happened. The man in front of Isay had finished seeing what had happened the entire time he was dead. He saw what the brunette learned from the faction wars, the gods, the sacred gear, what it means to have the boosted gear, the time that has passed since he was alive, how his town is currently, everything necessary for the man to is moderately informed. More things happened that I don't know about, but that's all that stands out, said Isay, watching as the man let out a big sigh. Yes, a lot of things happened. But there is nothing I can do now. Isay was slightly surprised at the maturity that man was showing. Thank you very much, young man. Now I know things that I didn't know before and that this sacred arm is actually the boosted gear. Now I understand what that man meant. Isay nodded and became somewhat curious about what the man said. In front of him, but he left it aside to ask something he hadn't asked yet. My name is Hyoudou Issei, current secretary. His name is. The man stared at him for a while until he burst out laughing at Isay's attentive gaze. I'm sorry. I had forgotten to introduce myself. A pleasure, Hyoudou Issei, my name is Viriano, you could say that I am the first. Secretary. Isay opened his eyes in surprise when he heard the now Viriano. Before him was the possible first senpai. But. How do you know that you are the first secretary? The brunette asked with great curiosity. If he is not mistaken, the boosted gear was only seen at the end of the first biblical faction war almost 3,000 years ago, and he knows that it was not Viriano because it had never left his town. You see. In my adolescence, when I woke up the boosted gear, an old stranger had appeared in the town looking for me, he said he wanted to see the first one. Or something like that. That old man spoke strangely and was very strange, no. Strange in the bad sense, only that his presence brought a lot of confidence and peace, but his way of speaking was very strange, said Viriano remembering before Isay's attentive gaze. An old man who appeared in his town. Presence of trust and peace and spoke strangely. Could it be? Did that old man tell you something more remarkable or did he do something in the boosted gear? Asked the brunette, very curious. Yes. He said something about how he forgot to do something with the boosted gear and asked me if I could show him. At first I refused, but he convinced me when he told me that he could help me use it properly. I agreed and he just touched the boosted gear. This shine, had a change and that's it. He taught me the power of fire, a little magic, the ability of the boosted gear, and he taught me how to fight. In short, he was my teacher for a while, until he mysteriously disappeared. The brain Isay was at his maximum capacity, if what he is thinking right now is true. No, that would be very crazy. But if it isn't, did he tell you his name or something? The brunette to close the theory he had to know something more about the old man Viriano speaks. As it was. His name was strange. But he always told me to call him whatever I wanted and I called him teacher. Isay sighed when he heard that. If only he knew the name of his senpai's teacher. He also said that the boosted gear along with his equal were the future of the uncertain. I never understood it with that way of speaking. The brunette stared at Viriano upon hearing that. I already confirmed it, the old man who spoke to the senpai about him was the biblical god himself. I better stop thinking too much. Isay let out another big sigh. He felt that his brain was getting hot from thinking a lot about those things. And you only made the statue to give away your power. Isay decided to talk about another topic for his own sake and that of his brain. That's right. Sia gave me the idea and helped me. Program the statue and have it activated upon contact with someone who seeks my power for something fair or who has the boosted gear. The brunette nodded, surprised by what Viriano said. Doing something like that without good knowledge was very difficult. Sia? She must have been a very intelligent friend, said Isay, thinking about what that Sia must have been like to do something like that. You don't know Sia? I thought you knew her. The brunette was confused by Viriano's question and look. No. Should I meet her? Isay asked. Of course she's the one who helps you operate boosted gear. That's where the brunette got confused. The only ones who help him with the boosted gear are Drag and the previous wielders, but he never found or heard from that Sia guy. There is only Dryag and the previous carriers. There is no Sia, said Isay at Viriano's look. How strange. Let's see. State report. Isay looked curious at Viriano for what he said. Starting status analysis. Update found, installing. Isay was surprised to hear the same voice that he heard when he touched the statue. Mistake. System at 50% of its capacity, searching for solutions in the database. What? What is that? Isay asked, quite surprised as he continued hearing the voice. She is Sia. She is an assistant who regulates the operation of the boosted gear and who helped me all my life, said Viriano, smiling wistfully. Solution found. Starting system diagnostics. It's very strange that she hasn't spoken to you. Viriano said calmly. I only heard her when she touched the gem of the statue. She had never spoken before, Isay responded, still surprised by that. Sia. Status updated. Current bearer. Hyoudou Issei, the name they gave me is Sia. I am the assistant of the sacred gear, boosted gear, I hope to be of help. What a pleasure. I hope for your best effort, responded the brunette. You heard it. Now let's get to what concerns us. Viriano decided to get to the point of the talk when he saw that his hand was slowly disappearing. You're disappearing. I want to learn more. Isay saw how little by little Viriano was disappearing, just like Belzard. I'm just a memory. I did this for future generations. But it seems they didn't need me, Viriano said, smiling. Now, do you want the power? This time Viriano asked seriously. What kind of power? Isay answered with another question. The power over the crimson magical fire linked to the boosted gear. They are quite dangerous flames if used well. Viriano showed the flames in his free hand. Those flames were very annoying and I would be lying if I said I didn't need them. But I can't accept them. Viriano was surprised by what Isay said. May I know why? I asked curiously. Accepting your power would be like taking a shortcut, and those flames are made with magic. I'm not good with it, and I prefer to get my own power, said the brunette, confident of himself. Are you sure? This is your only chance to get my flames taught by my master. He said they are something special. Viriano asked again. I already said it. I will get my own power, said the brunette, making Viriano smile and dissolve the flame. I admire your pride in not accepting shortcuts. My time is running out. It was a pleasure talking to you, Viriano spoke as he slowly disappeared. It was fun to talk and meet the first Hyoudou, said Isay sincerely. Now that I think about it, we are similar. You might be a descendant of mine. But that doesn't matter anymore. Goodbye, Hyoudou Issei. I wish you luck on your path and don't try to be someone you're not. Good luck were Viriano's last words, and then he disappeared. End of flash. BACK. Incredible. The first Hyoudou. Do you really think that the biblical god himself trained him? Dalia asked after having listened to Isay. It's just a theory. I wouldn't know how to confirm it, answered the brunette. I'm still surprised. I can't remember that moment, neither Viriano nor that Sia. Greg spoke out loudly, expounding his ideas. I suppose Sia is like a computer, and I suppose it can store memories. Let's see, Sia, is there a way to see Viriano's memories? The brunette asked before Dalia's gaze and Drake's attention. Request denied. Memories blocked by administrator. Isay sighed upon hearing the response. She imagined it, but she had hope. No one had known anything about this Sia before. I think no one here knew about her. Elsha did not hesitate to speak for everyone present. Neither she nor the rest had interacted with Sia. But it can be advantageous to have such a system. You can know what you need to discard the Juggernaut drive and have another power. Dalia gave the idea to Isay. It is true that it can be very useful to have Sia. Sia, is there some form of evolution? Asked the brunette when he heard the idea. All evolution is dependent on the determination, desire and need of the user. It seems like it's not that easy. Isay sighed upon hearing Sia's response. He also thought it would be very easy. Well. Now you know that everything depends on you, said Dalia, and Isay shrugs his shoulders. I'll answer Suzaku, then I'll go take a bath. Dalia nodded as the brunette walked away. Do you want me to take a bath with you? The Valkyrie asked amusingly, and she smiled when she saw how Isay stopped halfway. You don't make those jokes, Isay said, slightly nervous at Dalia's amused look. If you foo, I love it when he shows that he's still a child. Dalia smiled when she saw that. She doesn't like Isay pretending to be something she isn't, and that's why she teases him when she can. I'd better go cook. A smoked wild boar with honey water will be fine. The Valkyrie decided to go cook while the chestnut tree was bathing. Friend? That position is too big for you. Irina still couldn't get Isay's words out of her head. They had already returned to Kuo after the meeting with Isay, an encounter that was not as she expected. Who does he think he is? Zenobia did not hesitate to want to hit the Hyoudou. Isay-kun.he is not like that. He is not like that. Irina still didn't want to believe what Isay said a few hours ago. It's true. Something must have happened for him to be like that. I've been suspecting that since Yumi-san told me about Isay when he was little. Rias was also thoughtful. He wanted to talk to the brunette, but I can't do it, he keeps avoiding him. But he himself confirmed that he is with the Chaos Brigade. The one she said was Sona Citri. She had heard everything from the report that Akeno gave her. He didn't say it directly. Rias came to Isay's defense before the Citri's serious look. Don't try to defend him. Rias and Sona looked serious under the gaze of their respective peerages. And no. Should we stop them? Said a chattering box that was shaking. I want to get out of here, they're very scary, whispered the laborer Citri, hiding behind his companions who looked at him with disappointment. I'm going home. Both heiresses watched as Irina slowly left the CIO. Wait for me. Irina Zinovia ran after the angel. I'll go with them. Goodbye. Asia also went after them after saying goodbye to her. We will leave too, said Sona, looking away from Rias and leaving the CIO, being followed by her nobility. But you? What will happen now? Hyoudou asked curiously. I don't know, Hyoudou, I don't know. Rias sat at his desk still thinking about the brunette and the woman who accompanied him. What relationship did they have? The letter was delivered. Tobio was in front of Azazel in his office in Grigori. Thank you for your help and sorry for making you come unexpectedly, said Azazel, drinking a whiskey. No problem. I was curious to meet Vali's rival. He is someone curious and from what I see just as bad an actor as Vali. Tobio responded to Azazel's slight smile. Those two are most similar and at the same time the most different from all the previous Ekuryuite and Hakuryuku. Tobio watched as Azazel looked at a photo. What about that city, anything interesting? He asked curiously. Nothing notable. There were no records, relics or anything of interest, Tobio responded, leaving a paper on the desk. And why would the Ekuryuite move to that place? Tobio was just as curious as the fallen one. He searched the place with demons, angels and the fallen, but they found nothing, only some empty tombs. Whatever he finds in that place caught the attention of the Ekuryuite, Tobio said simply. And what did your cousin tell you? Azazel decided to ask something else. Surprisingly, they both know each other to such a level that it caused nervousness in the Ekuryuite. Azazel raised an eyebrow in curiosity. Could she be Vali's Lavinia? Haha, the two celestials of this generation are afraid of women. How curious. Azazel did not hesitate to make a comparison that Tobio had already made. What about the woman who accompanied the Ekuryuite? Tobio decided to return to the topic before Azazel continues laughing. You said her name was Dalia. It's a name that some Nordics used. I'll ask the old man if he doesn't know something. It's a perfect excuse to talk about a possible alliance. Tobio nodded at what the fallen man said. I'll leave. The bar won't take care of itself. Azazel nodded to what the young man said and let him leave. Let's see. Azazel took a paper that a man from Michael had sent him and they were quite surprised by what it said. The old man was in that place. How interesting. Azazel continued reading the report and his curiosity grew even more. In that place where the Ekuryuite went. Are you sure you're going to provoke him? Asked a pale man with black hair and pointed ears. Very sure. That damned Ekuryuite will pay for the humiliations he put me through, answered a brown man, clenching his fists in anger. He is in Russia. His former hiding place, the humans confirmed it, said the black-haired man. He prepares everything. I don't want any mistakes, said the brunette with a serious voice. We will take advantage of the uproar to weaken the imposters and take revenge on the Celestials. Everything will go according to plan. The brunette nodded to the black-haired man's words. It's a pity that Kateria has underestimated the imposters. We won't do the same, said the brunette seriously. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.